All right, we are live. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate my birthday. Let me just go ahead and start us with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this time together. We thank you for the opportunity to connect with fellow believers and unbelievers around the world. We ask that you guide our conversation today and everyone have a good time and maybe get something beneficial out of it as well. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. So as you may have read in the description, that today is my 40th birthday. So I just thought it would be a good opportunity to have a community hangout. Anyone who would like to is welcome to join the video or just the audio portion of the chat. We have my wife Crystal with us, and we also on audio have Deborah. If you have any questions or comments, anything you'd like me to address, whether it's about Islam or Christianity or, just questions about my life, that's perfectly fine. You can put those in the YouTube chat. First up, I'd like to acknowledge a couple of super chats. I usually don't encourage people to give super chats. The support's really appreciated, but the money's not a big deal. But since it is my birthday, I'll go ahead and encourage people to do that. I do have my eye on a device that will allow me to use my expensive fancy microphone on a live stream. So I'm looking to buy that soon. Earlier today, we had a super chat from Checo, no comment. And just now we had one from Styles D83, also no comment. So thank you very much for your support. Looks like we have the first question in the chat. This one comes from Styles. He asks where I'm from. So I was born in Oklahoma, but I moved to where I'm currently located in the Midwest United States at age 3. So essentially I've lived my entire life here. Crystal, how about you? Where are you from?
I was born in Texas, which is why I'm so awesome. Well, no, actually, I was born in Virginia. My dad was in the Navy, so I was a Navy brat for a little while. But I grew up in Texas, which is why I'm so awesome. I claim I'm Texan, even though I'm not technically really. But I went to high school in Texas, moved to the Midwest to go to college, and met this weirdo. And we got married and started a family.
Definitely. So, when I met Crystal, she still had a tiny bit of a Texas accent. It would only come out occasionally, especially on words with an I sound. So like my or by. She would say my.
Stop it. Be nice.
But
now, my son makes fun of me because if I'm around people with a Southern accent, it pops right back out pretty much instantly. If I go back home to visit my dad or my brother, who both still live in my hometown, my accent pops back out pretty much instantly. Now, you have to understand the Texas accent is a lot different than the Southern accent. They are totally different. Yeah, that accent, there's a switch that flips. I don't know. I don't even realize I'm doing it half the time. But yeah, T or Thaddeus will poke me and be like, your Southern is showing.
Yeah, so I was going to say, right after we got married, we actually eloped in Niagara Falls. Right after we got married, had to go down to Texas to see her family. I had met her father once for a very brief amount of time. I had never met her mother, so we had to go down to Texas. And it was quite interesting seeing how being there for, a week, all of a sudden the accent was right there. She was talking like she'd always been there, which is especially funny because her parents didn't grow up there, so they don't actually speak with an accent.
Yeah, my parents actually grew up like about 20 minutes from where we live now. My grandparents live about 20 minutes away. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, so her brother has a thick Texas accent, but her parents don't. So it was like just being in that environment was enough to make her slip back into that accent.
All right, can I say something?
Yes, so Muhammad has joined us, also known as the Lion of Christ on YouTube.
He used to go by the name Rory Husky, 1988. You remember me, don't you?
Of course.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Thaddeus. Thaddeus, right?
Thaddeus, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. I hope your 40th birthday. You don't look 40 to me.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think that's a compliment. Hopefully I don't
You look
look
about
80, but no, people,
you look about 30 or something,
well,
or
thank you.
20 or mid 20s.
Thank you. Yeah, Crystal.
Oh well, I hope your 44th birthday, or is it 40th birthday?
40.
Oh, I hope it goes well, and may the Lord bless you.
Thank you. So we actually have a question for you, Muhammad, in the chat. Jose Diaz said that you're an ex-Muslim, now Christian, right?
Yes. Who said that?
Jose Diaz.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. Muhammad is a brand new believer. He's been a Christian, I don't know, a month, maybe 2 months. So
yeah, I'm still a babe in the faith. It's really, no, I'll talk about it later, but it's not really about me now. It's about Thaddeus because it's his birthday.
absolutely. So I have some questions that I received via email from Tatuanin that I thought I would go through. Of course, any other comments or questions people have, go ahead and put those in the chat.
I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Why are you so weird?
Well, you know, God made me that way, I guess, would be the answer.
Oh, and you've been married to me for 19 years, so I probably weirded you a little.
Yeah, could be.
Love you, honey.
I'm actually looking for that email now. I had it open and then I accidentally closed it, and now I gotta find it again.
Okay.
All right.
Debbie, where are you from? Well, not sure she heard me. Oh, well.
Or either that or she doesn't realize she's muted, one or the other.
Her mic is muted.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? She muted herself, and then I had the settings set for people couldn't unmute themselves. So
good job, honey. Good job.
I didn't mute her, but
so
sorry.
Where are you from?
Oh, I am right now in North Carolina, but I'm from South Africa.
Oh, nice. Oh, hi, Chloe.
Hi, happy birthday.
Thank you.
How does it feel? Do you feel like you turned the age yet?
Nah, you know, I haven't felt my age in a long time. I still feel like I'm in my 20s, which, you know, Muhammad just said I look like him in my 20s, and I feel like it's weird though. So Kristen and I got married when I was 20 and she was 19, and on the one sense I feel like, you know, I've known her forever, but on the other sense I feel like, you know, we've only been married a few years.
You know, our anniversary was this past Monday, and we celebrated 19 years. It was on the 14th, and that 19-year anniversary means I have now been married to him for more than half my life. Like, I've now been like with him for more than I've been with my parents, and it's kind of like freaky.
Actually, like, I'm
Um,
almost 19. I can't imagine getting married like that young. But that's
Um,
Yeah, a lot of people don't do that anymore. I don't know what we were thinking, but yeah, we got married at 19. I popped a kid out at 21.
yo, God bless you.
And now I'm kind of struggling with the fact that our kid's a senior in high school this year. He's our only. And like it's just now hitting me that we're going to be empty nesters next year and I'm only going to be 39. Like, what is that
Okay.
going to be like?
can I read something to you?
Go ahead.
Darius? For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give to you and expect ends. Then, okay, that's it.
Excellent scripture there.
Yeah, but do you know what I missed out? I missed out something.
No, I don't know.
Look, listen to it again. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expect end. I missed out something. You gotta guess what it is. Guessing game. Come on, it is your birthday. And you can't look it up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have that particular verse memorized, so I don't know the words you left out. You're just gonna have to
Someone
tell.
does. Someone can, the audience can tell you. I mean, I think you do have this game called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in the US, right?
That's true.
But
I would be going for the ask the audience right now.
yeah, go on.
I'm sorry. I just read Colin's comment.
I was gonna
What
read.
was it?
Yeah, so Islam Critique just put in the chat. He put in a super chat who says, I know a guy who got squeezed in a cave by an angel at age 40. This is lame in comparison. Well, you know, I got a whole year though. You know, an angel could squeeze me anytime in the next year and I'll still be on the same track as Muhammad.
So it's actually thus saith the Lord.
Okay,
Jeremiah 29:11.
that makes perfect sense.
Oh goodness.
Wow. Well, have I seen you somewhere before, Chloe?
I have YouTube, maybe. I don't know.
She was on my channel last week.
Yeah,
So if you watched the show on abortion, that was her.
that's me.
Abortion.
Yes.
We could talk about that later on, but
Let's not tonight.
late. No, not
Try to
tonight.
keep
But
things lighthearted.
This is a
I will. But
happy.
I do want to come on that show if we talk about abortion,
Yeah.
whatever that show is.
Yeah, well, we had it last week.
Yeah, but I want to join in if that's okay.
Well, I mean, we already had it. So there's
We
nothing.
already had it.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't have Wi-Fi at the moment. I have mobile data.
No worries. So Jose Diaz pointed out that it should be Islam critiqued Puba, which he's put in his videos more than once. Peace be upon him, because you know he is the true prophet. And then we got a super chat from Praise Jesus that says, "Happy birthday, brother." Well, thank you very much, Praise Jesus, and what a great username that is.
That's pretty great.
Where
Did you
is
find
Islam?
Steven's email, honey?
Yes. So the first question that she asked is, I remember asking your opinion about evolutionary theory, etc., but how do you see the so-called ape-man skeletons? For me, I think the theory about these creatures would contradict the Bible story of creation. So there are two different issues here. One is, what is my opinion about evolutionary theory? And one is my opinion on how, if true, it would affect the Bible. So I'll start with the easier question, and that is the theological question. I would say that the Bible does not teach how creation was brought about, whether it was in 1 microsecond or 7 24-hour days, or whether it took millions of years. So I don't have any theological problem with evolution. You know, God could choose to create in whatever manner he so desired, and it wouldn't diminish his power any if he put very detailed natural laws in process that would bring about what he desired, that is humans, the height of creation.
I want
Now,
to add something to that. Okay.
Go ahead if you have something on the theology before I get into the science.
Here's the thing. I have a key worker. I'm not going to mention his name, but he said that God could have made. No, it wasn't him, but he was quoting someone else. God could have made the earth in 7 days because it can't just be 7 days. He was quoting someone else. But how do you know it's 7 days? We just made it to, understand, if you know what I mean. Understand?
Yeah, so the view of the early church was almost universally that God actually created in one instant, and it was just put in 7 days to, to kind of, for poetic reasons, to explain how God created kind of step by step, how he was in control of each process. So it's not like just a modern view that denies that this would be 7 24-hour days. And of course, the Hebrew word for day can mean in period. Some will say, well, the most common use is 24-hour day. Well, that is true. But we don't determine a word's meaning just by what's most common and say that it means that in every case. We have to actually look at the passage and see what it's saying. And my opinion is that the point of Genesis 1 is not to give a description of scientific matters or historical matters of, the amount of time that God took to create. It's to show that he is in charge of the whole process, that he first created, say, the sky, and then he filled it with birds, or he created the sea, and then he filled it with fish, or he created the land and then filled it with animals. So I don't think it's necessarily meant to be read in chronological order, and I certainly don't think that it's meant to be read as 24-hour days. So to get to the science aspect, so now when it comes to science, I do have some difficulties accepting the standard evolutionary theory. When I look at the evidence, I just don't see it's there. I think that the evidence for the Earth being very old is strong, but for creatures evolving over time, I think that the evidence is very limited. In regards specifically to human beings, many of the vast majority of these so-called human ancestors are known from one partial skeleton. Now, that's problematic because, of course, who's to say that it wasn't just a unusually shaped human being that produced this particular thigh bone or this particular skull or whatever? So if these creatures that predated humanity were actually there, I would think that the skeletons would be more common, that we would know the species from more than just one partial skeleton. For example, the Neanderthals, which are, from a biological definition, should be considered the same species because it's believed that they could interbreed with Homo sapiens, modern man. We have tons of skeletons for Neanderthals, but we have only, like one skeleton for this, one partial skeleton for this supposed ancestor. So I just don't think the evidence is very strong. Anything you'd like to add, honey?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, there's a number of various genetic bone diseases that could cover any of the smaller skeletons, like the I'm not going to get into all their scientific names. I'm not going to reveal my nerd tonight.
Yeah, I just thought I'd give you a chance since I know you studied biology and whatnot.
I studied microbiology and biochemistry.
Yes, but to get to microbiology, you have to first have general biology. Why don't you tell everyone why you were studying microbiology? Because it's a very unusual reason.
What do you mean?
that you have a strong interest in infectious diseases and wanted to study them?
I wanted to study level 4 biohazard diseases, especially I wanted to specialize in hemorrhagic fevers, like Lassa and Marburg and Ebola, because they fascinate me. I know that sounds really weird, but the idea that something that's not even alive, like alive by scientific terms, because technically a virus is not alive, can infect you, and in some cases within 24 to 48 hours you are bleeding from your eyeballs and your ears, and your internal organs have turned to goo. It's super fascinating. Like, I am like totally captivated by that idea. And then there's so many other diseases out there that are just naturally present in the soil that are like so toxic to mankind, like tularemia and Ohio Valley fever and coccidiomycosis. And oh my gosh, I could go on forever. Like, seriously, look what you started. You made my nerd come out. Stop it. Stop it. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I wanted to do, but then I became a stay-at-home mom instead. So
see, I told everyone that it was a very interesting reason. People who aren't from the United States may not have the same experience, but here there's a lot of medical mystery shows, like they're nonfiction, where they interview a doctor about this strange case they had, and they're giving the person symptoms, and then usually like 5 minutes into this 20-minute program, she's like, I know exactly what it is. The doctor should have figured it out by now.
He stopped watching them with me. He won't watch them with me anymore. He's like, this is no fun. You figured it out. Well, sometimes he'll watch them with me just to see if I get it wrong.
It's not that you ruined the fun of guessing it. I would have never guessed it to begin with because I'd never heard of the thing that you said, but
yeah, no, I didn't even want to work in the labs. I wanted to be an epidemiologist. And the epidemiologists are the people that go to the outbreaks and wear the giant spacesuits and find patient 0 and the vectors and really sort out where the outbreak came from. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
Unfortunately, IslamCritiqued has the information that will have made your medical knowledge obsolete. He says that 7 Adwa dates cures all illnesses, which is what Muhammad claimed in the Hadith. That and black seeds; those are kind of the cure-alls.
And don't forget camel urine and dunking a fly.
Yes, so camel urine will cure.
I was just about to say that. Oh my goodness!
Camel urine will cure your stomach ache. The dates will protect you from poison. The black seeds cure all illnesses. And if a fly lands in your drink, you need to take the fly and dunk it in your drink, because apparently flies carry disease on their wings, but for every disease they carry on the one wing, they carry the cure for the disease on the other wing. So since you don't know
this is the wisdom of the Prophet. May Allah's prayers be upon him.
Style said, stay-at-home mom may be safer. I mean, definitely. I mean, there are a lot of level 4 scientists and even level 3 scientists that have died because of lab accidents. They happen. You prick your finger, you get a hole in your suit. I mean, it happens. You try to be careful, but you can't always be. Yeah. You do have a question in your chat, honey.
Yeah, I was going to get to it after we finish the discussion on the viruses. So Styles says, what is your take on the narrative concerning the Nephilim? Of course, this is one of those passages that people have very strong opinions about, but I don't. So the narrative is that, you know, the sons of God and the daughters of man kind of interbred and, you know, created the Nephilim. And there's basically two options here. One is that the term sons of God is describing the beings that we refer to as angels, the kind of the, you know, the created beings that have supernatural powers compared to what human beings do. And then they interbred and created this hybrid species that would be one of the reasons why the flood had to take place to wipe out this species. And then some even say that Goliath was a remnant of this species, and that's why he was so gigantic and whatnot. In support of that view, the phrase sons of God most often does in fact mean the angels, for lack of a better term. So that, you know, that you have that possibility. The other possibility is that it's simply referring to those human beings who were faithful to God's will, interbreeding with unbelievers, marrying, or interbreeding being a poor choice of words there, marrying unbelievers, and thus moving away from God by being influenced by, you know, when a believer and a non-believer marry, it tends to always go the way of unbelief. So those would be the two possibilities. I think that both of them have some merit to them, but I don't have a firm position on that one. What about you, honey?
Okay.
I don't really have an opinion either. It's definitely an interesting passage, but I mean, yeah.
All right.
If Islam is still watching, I bet you he has some great insight to add to that one.
Who does?
IslamCritiqued, I bet you will have some insight to that.
Why doesn't IslamCritiqued come on the show?
Well, I mean, that's his choice, obviously, whether he wants to or not.
Ask him, does he want to come in?
Yeah, Siles said that's where I'm stuck at, the meaning of sons of God. And
I mean,
course,
it can mean so many different things. So
right, and the narrative's pretty brief. It's hard to say one way or another, which is why it's a much debated passage.
Yes.
For anyone who wants to join the video portion, or you can just join audio. You don't have to put your face on camera if you don't want to. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat again. William says that it's his birthday, the day after tomorrow. So happy early birthday.
Happy early birthday,
William.
My birthday's on January 2nd, so it's far away from now.
Yeah, I got a ways to go for that one. January 2nd, though, huh? Almost New Year's Day.
No,
I'm a
New Year's Days is before that.
Yeah, I said almost. Well, okay. I meant close to when I said almost, but you're right. It's technically after, and almost normally means before.
Yeah.
The Islamic New Year, is that also January 1st, or is it another day? I don't remember.
No, they don't celebrate the so-called Kufar's New Day.
Yeah, I had a feeling they didn't.
So, so guys, I've got a little bit of a learning disability, right?
You've told me before.
Yeah, so I wouldn't know much about science, but I can briefly say about that. I think God can make however he wants, the planets, and the earth, and how he wants to make human beings. And Muslims would say that that's an impossibility. God can't do that. Well, how do you explain the fact that God turned some Jews into monkeys and pigs just because they broke the Sabbath?
Yeah, I guess Islam has the theory of reverse evolution, that people became apes, and that's where apes came from, rather than the other way
And
around.
pigs, and pigs, and pigs.
And pigs, and rats in the Hadith. That there was some rats that were drinking milk, and Muhammad was asked about it. And he's like, "Oh, those were the ones that used to be Jews because they have a taste for milk."
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Wait, yeah. Oh, who's in now? Oh.
So Styles says that his birthday is October 3rd, so also coming up pretty soon.
I have to wait forever for my birthday.
When's your birthday?
It's in January.
January the what?
17th.
Oh.
We'll have to have a hangout for your birthday too.
What about my birthday?
I always turn my birthday into this like big epic, like super epic, like week-long celebration. I have like one night out with my girlfriends, one night out with my family, one night out with whatever. One night out with actually, just Thaddeus, because our son is Thaddeus as well, which makes things confusing in the house. Actually,
Thaddeus Jr.
No, actually, not technically Thaddeus Jr. Because even though he goes by Thaddeus, that's not his first name; it's his middle name.
Oh,
yes. So, well, legally, it is my middle name, but my parents called me Thaddeus. My first name is George. They gave me that name because of pressure from the family. It was a family name tradition. They hated the name, so they've always called me by my middle name.
George.
But our son's name is Thaddeus. So our son is actually Thaddeus Ambrose, because his confirmation saint was Saint Ambrose.
How much does it cost to change your name in America?
I don't know.
Well, as long as you have the paperwork, it doesn't cost anything. I mean, when I got married, it didn't cost me anything.
I think paperwork might be an exception. I think it probably varies from state to state whether there's a fee to change your name. It wouldn't be much even if there was a fee.
Because here it's about 1,000 or something.
Oh wow, yeah, it's definitely nothing.
I think
like that.
so. I could be wrong. You can just look it up. I'm in the UK. You know that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to visit, but I mean, I've visited Swansea, but I've never visited the London area. I've been to Wales.
I don't live in London.
I was hoping. Our son graduates high school this year. He's a senior, and I don't know how secondary education works around the world, but I was hoping he would pick the UK as his graduation trip. I always take him. I prefer to give him experiences rather than things. So when he turned 16, I took him to China for 2 weeks. And this time I told him that when he turns 18 and when he graduates, we'll take him on a trip for 3 or 4 weeks. He just has to pick a spot. And I was hoping he'd pick the UK. And instead, he picked the Netherlands, which I'm all for because I love Van Gogh. I could spend forever in the Van Gogh Museum and the Rijksmuseum, and he loves politics, so we'll spend forever in The Hague, I'm sure.
Wait, isn't that's what Get Wilders is?
Pardon?
Get Wilders.
I didn't understand what you said.
Get Wilders. Get Wilders, the one who made the movie
Oh,
called
okay.
Fitna,
Yeah, okay. I know. He's referring to the
the
guy
right-wing politician.
who
Oh.
wrote a manifesto about how he couldn't get his political view heard any other way, so he was going to shoot up a bunch of Muslims.
No, that wasn't Get Wilders.
Oh, okay.
Get Wilders, it was a right-wing politician who made a video, who made a movie called Fitna.
Oh, I have no idea. I mostly am just excited to hang out in the Netherlands. I mean, again, I would have preferred to pick the UK because I've never been to the British Museum. But I guess I'll just have to make Thaddeus take me.
Yeah, it's really up to your son because he's the one graduating, not you.
I know. But I'll have to make my husband take me. So honey, next year for our 20th anniversary, take me to London and take me to the British Museum.
All right. So Debbie said that said that a name change isn't that much, meaning less than $1,000 in the UK, and Styles said that in Illinois it's $301 because he knows
And
so much
one.
too. Apparently.
Why and one?
Yeah.
Okay, can you
Why so
announce to
arbitrary?
everyone I could be wrong?
Yes. Everyone can hear you. So they heard you when you said that you weren't sure, but no worries. I also made IslamCritiqued the moderator in case he wants to post any links on the Nephilim material.
Uh-oh.
So I'll go ahead and take the next question I got via email from Tatuanin. How do you explain Jesus being the only begotten Son of God when the same thing is said of David? So 2 comments there. First, only begotten is probably not really the best translation of the Greek word monogenesis. If you look at the parts of it, like mono means only, and genesis is like, think like genetic. That's where we get the word for like genetic or genus or something like that from. So that you can see how earlier biblical scholars thought that that would mean only begotten. However, most recent literature suggests that it should be translated as unique or special, which when you look at David, that makes perfect sense because, you know, David wasn't an only son, yet somehow he was the monogenesis son. And then, so that would be the first thing I would say is that, you know, keep in mind that it's not really referring to begotten, which is, you know, archaic English to begin with, but, you know, meaning born from or something like that. Rather, it's referring to the unique nature of Jesus. And then the secondarily, I would say that, you know, the key to interpreting the Old Testament is typology, that Jesus says the entire Old Testament is written about him. So, you know, David is a type of Messiah figure. He's a type of Jesus, just like, say, Moses is a type of Jesus. But that doesn't mean that everything that's true about him is true about Jesus. It means that he points towards Jesus in certain important ways.
Okay, is that your son, Thaddeus and Crystals?
Yes, this would be Thaddeus
This
the
is our
younger,
kiddo Thaddeus.
or
Hello.
T as we call him.
Here, sit
Hello.
up straight because you look short. You look funny. Ah, you killed my phone and my water bottle.
You're the one that made me sit up and come up here, so I don't want to hear you complaining.
T is gigantic. He is over 6 feet tall and still growing.
All right, come here.
Hi.
He looks so young.
Well, he is
He's
young.
17.
17, okay. All right.
So say hi.
Hi. I've already said hi multiple times. Hi.
Tell
Well,
them
say-
what you
say
want.
hello.
Tell them what you want to do when you go off to college because it's interesting.
Major in Russian and minor in Arabic and Mandarin Chinese, so I can do military intelligence work.
Oh, wait, what?
Our
I
kid's
thought
weird.
you wanted to go to the Netherlands.
Well,
Well,
that's a
that's just
vacation.
for a trip.
Okay.
Yeah, my son is a weirdo. He wants to study foreign languages to be a spy, basically.
He's hoping the CIA will recruit him.
Yep.
But he wants to
But-
learn Chinese.
But he
He's
wants to
already
learn
learning
Arabic.
Chinese in school.
So I say, once he learns Arabic, I'm going to make him translate all my videos into Arabic.
You're
I'll
gonna
pay
make
him.
him.
I'll pay him.
Oh, yeah.
I'll pay him.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
he's
going to
good.
make him put in all that
Good
effort for
too.
no reason.
Did you open
Oh,
the Windows
did
down
you?
here?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Goodbye.
He's leaving now. That was enough social interaction for
know.
the introverted teenager.
No worries. And Styles did confirm that it is, in fact, $1 extra, i.e. $301 for a name change rather than 300. Go figure.
So funny.
As the state of Illinois for you, I guess.
Well, you know,
Oh,
it's always weird.
I've got
Although I can't say
Of
that.
course.
I like Chicago.
a question for you.
Sure.
No, it's a biblical question. It's like, which translation do you think is the best? And don't say the NIV.
So I'll answer that two ways. I'll first answer it the way you phrased it. What is the best translation? And the best translation is the one that you like reading, that you'll actually read. All competent modern translations, all the common ones that people use. I mean, there are rarely heard of incompetent versions. And of course, there's versions for heretical sects that use their own fake translation, such as the New World Translation by the Jehovah's Witnesses. But any scholarly modern translation or you know, even older translation is perfectly fine. If that's the one you like to read, that's the best one for you.
You mean the King James?
Yep, even the King James. You know, every Bible, every competent translation is going to have the same message. Now, they might not all be ideal for like in-depth, very detailed study, but as far as
Unless you
getting
have
the
a study Bible. Unless you have a study Bible. I've got the King James Study Bible.
yes,
And
so
it's got the words of Jesus in red.
excellent. So you know, any translation that you like reading, whatever one you like reading the best, is generally the best translation for you. I'm not the type of person that says everyone should read translation X because I think it's the best. My personal favorite translation, to answer it a different way, is the ESV. I think it gives a nice balance between being fairly literal in the translation, but also keeping the language elegant, keeping the language easy to understand. Something like the NIV that you referred to, NIV is probably the most popular translation, is a little bit more easy to read, which is perfectly fine. I mean, if you prefer it that way, that's great. The only thing is that the more easy you make it, the more you have to read your theology into the translation a little bit. Not like they do it blatantly and in massive ways, but you know, in subtle little ways.
We can't go by popularity or argument from popularum or whatever you call it.
I've
Right?
been
Because
enjoying my my new Bible, and I'm trying to remember the translation. It's the CSB. I've been enjoying that translation.
okay, but we cannot go for the populist. What's the ad populum?
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah,
I
argument
mean,
Basically,
ad
it's all.
populum.
I mean, as
Basically,
far
it's
as translations go, I feel like translations are a personal thing. It's all whatever is going to be most beneficial for you and what's going to help you study. I know when I was in high school, I used what's it called? The Living Translation, which is, I mean, it is pretty much the last one that you can call a translation without it being, you know, because that's what I needed. I needed that it flows like a book.
okay, can I
But I
say
mean,
something?
it's all
Yeah.
all in what you need for your study. It's your personal preference. Everybody is going to need their own I know some people that prefer King James because they really, really like those they and thous.
No, I go for the King James because of the fact it's gonna sound like I'm going against the word of God, but I'm not, because it says here that this is verse 21. You've heard, then it's going to go to verse 22 from chapter 5. It's, oh, how you doing? It goes like this. Ye have heard it said by them of old time, thou shalt not kill, and whoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you that whoever is angry with his brother, right, without a cause, now you remember that phrase, without a cause, because that's going to be important later on, shall be in danger of judgment, and whosoever shall say to his brother Raka shall be in danger of the council, but whosoever says thou fool shall be in danger of hellfire. Now, the reason why I go for the King James, and I know Thaddeus made a video on this. You made a video on the King James, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. The reason why I go for the King James because it uses that important phrase without a cause. The other translations omit that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I mean, I would have to pull up the Greek, but I have a feeling that it might be implied by the Greek, but it's probably not explicit in the Greek, and that's probably why other translations don't have it. I don't think they would skip over words.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a weak argument, doesn't it? But
I mean, like I said, whatever translation you like the
floats your
best
boat.
is the best translation, in my opinion. To finish my thoughts, Crystal already pointed out the New Living Translation. That's probably the least quote unquote literal, which is actually a really poor choice of words, because people say literal, but they don't even know what that means, and it's kind of meaningless in translation. What they actually mean is what's called a formal equivalent, like a one to one word translation, whereas a dynamic equivalent is like a thought for thought translation. Both have their benefits. Not one is not automatically better than the other. So like the most.
We have A joining us.
Yes, that is correct. Kaisar has joined us and changed his name to A. I don't know if he intended to change his name to A. He goes by Kaisar on YouTube though. So as I was saying, the New Living Translation is about as go to the other end, which would be a dynamic equivalent of thought for thought, as you can get and still be considered a translation as opposed to a paraphrase. On the other end of the scale would be something like the NASB or the NRSV that is very much on the formal equivalence, where they try to go word for word, whether even if translating word for word kind of changes the thought, they rather try to maintain the word for word translation rather than the thought for thought. So, you know, the more you go towards the dynamic side, the more you risk reading theology into a text that isn't actually part of the original text. But the more you go towards the formal side, the more you risk changing the meaning by translating an idiom too literally, and then you don't get the correct sense in English either. So, you know, one's not better than the other, they're just different. So a good strategy is to have a couple different translations and look at multiple different translations if you're going for, you know, like serious in-depth Bible study. If you're just going to get the main message, any translation's fine. If you're going for more serious study and you don't have any knowledge of the original language, I would say get one or more good study Bibles, look at the notes, but also compare the translations.
So you made a video on the King James, right? And you said you don't have a problem with people. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. you don't have a problem with people who want to do casual reading of the King James, but you have a problem with the King James onlyist people. Is that right? Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
that's correct. Because when you go to say that King James only, which I mean, when you do this, it's usually King James. There's a couple other translations people do it occasionally, but usually it's, if someone's going to say only one Bible translation is valid, they'll say it's the King James. And when you do that, you make the English translation the inspired text rather than the original language. You say that before the King James was made in 1611, that no one had the authoritative word of God. I mean, that seems pretty ridiculous to me. Furthermore, to learn the authoritative word of God, you must read archaic English, even if English isn't your primary language. I mean, this kind of sounds like what Muslims do. They say you have to learn the Quran in Arabic or you won't understand it. Even if you don't understand Arabic, you still got to learn it in Arabic. And that's kind of the same thing that King James only people say, is you got to learn the Bible in archaic English or you're not learning the Bible properly.
Let me see what the word means. I'm on the Blue Letter Translation Bible. It tells you, let me see, what does that word mean? Only child, it means only begotten, only. Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
It means, I'm looking at the word, is monogenes, right? Genus?
Yes.
I don't know how to pronounce that word properly, but it means only born, solo born, solely, only begotten child, only child, only begotten, only child. That's it. That's
Yeah,
according to
like
King
I
James.
said, so when you look at a website, you're going to see public domain sources, which means like that, you're going to see public domain lexicons, which means they're written before 1923. And the original opinion, universal opinion of scholars was indeed that the word meant only begotten, but we've done a lot more research on how the word is used in Greek, you know, or was used in the first century in Greek. And we've come to the conclusion that it more precisely means unique or special.
Green tea wishes you happy
Yeah.
birthday.
I can pull up a modern lexicon if you like. There's a ton of scholarly literature on this, though. You know, this is a really important word, so there's a lot written on it.
Yeah, you might be right, because unique means one of a kind, doesn't it?
Yes.
Right. It says in the what I'm pulling up now. It's the show outline Bible usage. It means single of its kind only, or it can mean. I'll show you the website if you can go to it and see. So I have it open. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a second.
Sorry about
I
this.
assume I see there's a chat message. I assume that you put that.
No, I'm going to put it in now. Okay, let's see. Hey, can you open it?
Yeah, I'll
Since you're the host.
Yep, just give me 1 second, and then I'll put it on the screen so everyone can see it. So let's see. Go to the website. Share my screen. So we have the Blue Letter Bible up here for the Monogenes. We see.
Do you see the first definition?
Oh, you're gonna. They have multiple lexicons on here, but are you looking at Thayer's Greek lexicon?
No, I'm looking at. Go up. The outline Bible usage.
Yeah, right. So this outline here, this is going to be something the makers of this website put out. So this is going to be modern understanding of the word. Single of its kind only, used of sons or daughters viewed in relationship to their parents, used of Christ denotes the only begotten Son of God. So then if you scroll down, you'll see that there's lexicon here, single of its kind only, and it looks like
Yeah,
that is all.
it means unique.
Yeah,
Right.
so I'm gonna
Single of its kind means unique.
correct.
Unique means one of a kind, right? Then
Yes.
there's no other kind, right? That's what it means.
Correct.
I mean, I agree. Christ is unique. Jesus is unique,
correct.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
So now you'll see up on your screen an entry from BDAG, the standard Greek lexicon used by virtually all students of Greek, whether they're studying the Bible or otherwise. If they're studying, Koine Greek, i.e. first century Greek, this is what they'll use. See, the first definition here is pertaining to being the only one of its kind within a specific relationship, one and only, or only. And then the second definition is pertaining to being the only one of its kind or class, unique in kind of something. And then it says of something that is the only example of its category. So you can see how that would relate to Jesus. And those are the two definitions they get. So if you look at an older resource, it might say only begotten, because of the components of the word look like that would be the meaning, but that doesn't seem to be the way it was actually used by the time the Bible was written. And I did see that IslamCritiqued said something about that. He pointed out that genus means kind or class, just like genus means when we're talking about species, same root origin.
Wait, I could be wrong. I think A wanted to say something. I could be wrong, but it's Genesis, right? The first book of the Bible, Genesis, which means the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be another example of a related Greek term, because we get Genesis just from the transliterated Greek. It actually has a different title in Hebrew.
Even Barashit.
Yes, which I don't recall the
It's
meaning.
Barashit.
I don't recall the
It
meaning
means,
of that offhand, but
I think it means in the beginning as well, Barashit. Then you got Exodus, Davarim.
right. Well, so Genesis would be, the creation of things, whereas you're right that it's just taken from the first words in the beginning, the Hebrew title.
Yeah. Yeah. A, do you want to say something? You've been awfully quiet. This is your show. So
I don't think A wants to say anything. So Styles a little while ago said great argument against the King James only argument, and I like the King James translation. The video that Muhammad was referring to is called like Unicorns in the Bible. I don't recommend the King James as your only translation or something like that.
In which he stole one of my stuffed unicorns to film.
Yes, I used her stuffed unicorn without her knowledge, and then she's like, wait a minute, that's my unicorn in your video.
I have a thing for stuffed animals. If you watched my CRPS video, I admitted it. Especially stuffed unicorns, because I'm 5 years old inside. So like every time I go on vacation, I buy a stuffed animal, or if he wants to cheer me up, or if it's a anniversary or a holiday or whatever, he buys me a stuffed animal. So yeah, I've got like a bajillion stuffed animals. It's kind of funny. I love
have you
stuffed
guys
animals.
heard of Weetabix?
No.
Let me see. No.
No.
Nope. Must be a British brand. Definitely never seen that before.
You seen what it looks like? Yeah.
Yep. We saw it. We saw the image.
Yeah.
But
So
like,
it's
there's even
delicious.
dinosaurs on our bed. Look, see, there's dinosaurs that watch over our bed. That's how much we love stuffed animals.
Oh, A wants to say something now, I think. Hello, A. How you doing?
I guess he has nothing to
He
say.
or
Or
she?
microphone's not working. One or the other.
I'm
So anyway, as
muted.
I was saying about my video on unicorns, basically I give a couple of reasons why the King James isn't always the best choice. You know, on the one hand, like I already said, you know, if that's what you like reading the best, then great. There's nothing wrong with it. It contains the same gospel message and everything. But I would just say that, well, one is, you know, the language can be archaic, which if you come across a word you don't know because it's not a modern English word, it is not a big deal. You can just look it up in a dictionary. But where you get in trouble is certain times words' meaning has changed. So when the King James translators put in a particular word, it meant something different to the people reading it than the modern reader will get out of it. A trivial example of that would be where Jesus talks about going into your prayer closet. In modern English, a closet is, you know, a little box that you store your clothes into, but that's not the meaning that it meant in those times. And, you know, a modern translation will just say something like room or something like that. A less trivial example is in Genesis, where it says that God refreshed creation. To the modern mind, refreshed is kind of like regenerate, and it might imply that there was a species before human beings that were wiped out, and then God recreated human beings as a second iteration. But that's not actually what it meant in 1600, and of course, it's not what other Bible translations will say. The other reason that I would say that, you know, the King James might not be the best for serious study is because we've learned a lot over the last 100 years. We talked about that already with the only begotten or unique son, that when the King James was translated, they got the best scholars available and they did the best they could, but they only two things. One, they only had I think like 11 Greek manuscripts to work with. We now have 5,000 Greek manuscripts to work at. So we have a much better idea of the original text. It usually doesn't change the meaning, but every once in a while there's a small change of meaning because of that. And we also just have a much better idea of how words were actually used at that time, because you can't just say, well, I know modern Greek, so I know exactly what was meant in first century Greek. You got the same exact difference between 1600 English and 2020 English as you do same kind of differences with modern Greek and Greek of the first century. That a lot of the words will be the same, but the meaning has changed in subtle ways.
Not only that, but do you remember when I left a comment on your video on the King James? I said the King James uses the phrase "put away your wife," like if she's some sort of toy or something. That's when I wasn't a Christian. Remember that? Do you remember that comment?
Yes.
And also, apparently, there was another edition of the King James Bible where it says, where, you know, in the Ten Commandments, it says, "Thou shalt not commit this and that and that."
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, in the there was one edition in the 1611 version. It literally said, apparently, from what I've heard, "Thou shalt commit adultery." They forgot to put in the word "not."
Like it was a publisher's error.
Yeah, and then you got people who say that it's the inspired word of God. Okay, so if, let's say the King James is the inspired word of God, which version you're talking about, The one that says, thou shalt commit adultery, or thou shalt not commit adultery. I mean, what if thou shalt commit adultery? Okay, that means if I have a wife, or she and she commits adultery, it's not sin, because the Ten Commandments obviously say you can commit adultery. According to that edition of the 1611, if you know what I mean, it's not
Yes.
sin then.
Yeah. So you're right.
If you know what I mean.
Most people just say the King James, and they don't actually realize that it went through multiple revisions itself. There's the 1611 version, and then there's another version 20 years later, and then another version 20 years after that, or whatever. And then the final version in 1789 is the one that most Bibles that are labeled the King James are, unless they specifically like say King James 1611. So, I mean, which one was the inspired one, the original or the fourth revision? And it's kind of just kind of silly when you think about it that way.
I want to find that Bible where it says thou shalt not commit adultery. I'm only joking, but really, was there a version like this?
Yes. So switching gears a bit, Styles says, speaking of one of a kind, how about Muhamad Hijab? And I don't know how unique Muhamad Hijab really is. He behaves like a buffoon, but I kind of see the same behavior from a lot of Islamic apologists, and I think that they probably learned that behavior from Muhammad, the original Muhammad. So it is interesting though how he's kind of totally had a meltdown from a Western modern perspective, how he's been attacking people's wives on Twitter and posting
Disgusting.
Yes, posting things that would be rape language, but
And
he makes it sound like it's philosophical. Like he's like, we're going to penetrate the forces of Christianity and force them to bend over. And yeah, I mean, it's just totally absurd
I
behavior.
think is what, I'm sorry, I have to say this, but even though I'm guilty of this as well, and I'm going to be honest, because as a Christian, I have to be honest. Well, it's not that I can't lie. Only God can't lie, because the Bible says it's impossible for God to lie. Right?
Right. It's against his nature.
Yeah. So I can lie, obviously, because it's not against my nature. It's actually my fleshly nature that can lie. But I would say I ought not to lie as a Christian. It's not that I can't lie, because that would mean it's impossible for me to lie, right? So, but it's not impossible for me to lie. So yeah, I would say he's been, and I like I said, I've been guilty of this too. He's been watching too much porn.
Could be.
BDS porn or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, the people watching probably all know about this, but I'll say it for Crystal's benefit. He also got into a live stream with the apostate prophet, who is a atheist ex-Muslim, and was posting like, you should give me a golden shower. You should give David Wood a golden shower. And then he posted things along those lines, at least like 50 consecutive messages. And then when some people called him out on it, he's like, I was just playing a character. I was showing that atheism has nothing to criticize. He can't say that anything I did was wrong. And it's like, come on, dude, you're insane.
That's disgusting.
Yes.
That's absolutely disgusting.
And
what Muhamad Hijab did.
He's probably, honestly, he's probably the most popular Muslim apologist right now. Someone like Zakir Naik is more famous because he's been at it for 20 years, but as far as current popularity...
Ahmadiyya is the most famous.
Yeah, so, of course, D-Dot is deceased, and Zakir Naik is...
he's carrier boy.
He's past his prime, so to speak. Muhammad Hijab's probably the number one favorite Muslim apologist right now, and this is the way he behaves. He posts comments about how people are going to be violated, and he also attempted to, well, I shouldn't say attempted. He just flat out posted someone's divorce papers on Twitter and took a line out of it and was like, look, he doesn't want to support his kids, because there was a dispute about how much income the guy had made in the last year.
What's his name? Oh, we shouldn't really tell you the name.
Yeah, I'm not gonna repeat it, but this is the
It's disgusting. I mean, you cannot dox people, and according to all Western laws, doxing is actually a criminal offense.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's technically, the divorce papers are obviously technically public record, so anyone could find them. But I mean, it's pretty ridiculous for him to post it on there, trying to, make the Christian look bad because he got a divorce. I mean, come on now.
I mean, Christians aren't perfect.
Hold on.
We're not.
Kaisar,
We're not
Hold on.
perfect.
Kaiser wants to say something.
No, I just want to say he just loser or something like that.
Oh, I'm guessing you're from Germany.
No, I'm not. I'm not from Germany. I'm from Indonesia.
Where are you from?
Indonesia.
Oh, okay. I was just assuming with a name like Kaiser.
Let me rename it.
Ah.
And I just don't want anyone to find about me. Oh, also, when are you gonna find about the story of Muslim in Indonesia or Southeast Asian?
So when will I have another video on Southeast Asia? Is that the question?
Yep, the Muslim one.
So the next video in my series that I've been doing on, Muslim movements to Christ will be on the Indonesian revival of the 1960s. I haven't written the script yet, but it will definitely be coming up within the next month or two.
Wait, Southeast Asia, isn't that where Bangladesh? No, I don't think so.
No. Bangladesh is India. Southeast Asian is the most toxic gamer in the world.
Yeah, so
Bangladesh.
So Southeast Asia would be, the island nations and like Thailand and such.
Malaysia, Singapore, Filipino. Also, Muslim in here is so, very radical, beyond any Arab Muslim in the world.
Yeah, I've been trying to convince Thaddeus to do a long-term missions trip once our son goes off to college next year. I told him it would be great to do a long-term missions trip in Indonesia because it's something that's so greatly needed. I could go and teach English while he could do Christian outreach, and we could do missions in Indonesia for 3 to 6 months, and I think it would be wonderful. But I would be ready to go, like, give me a week to pack and I would be gone. He would need some more convincing. So we'll see.
I did say I was sorry about that. I thought Southeast Asia was like
what? Just answer. It's okay.
India.
No. We are very different. In our place, we have our own culture, religions, and many history. Yeah, most history of Indonesia is whitewashed by Muslim. And just unbelievable.
Bangladesh is also a Sunni Muslim country.
Very no. Once the Buddhist Indo-Buddhist nations just like us, only in our place we are more like take everything of Indo-Buddhist and sing it or mix it with our own belief, just like that.
Yeah, going back to what you said earlier about Islam being heretical in a lot of those countries, it's very true. They're very synchronistic, that they've taken the
just very crazy.
Yeah, the traditional tribal religions and kind of blended them with Islam and have all these things that say someone from Saudi Arabia would consider absolutely not Islam at all. And
prophet, God, like, oh my God, these people are crazy or something. Once they say Arab, oh my God, on Arabs, maybe some kind of prophet from God. Also, do you know the things of prophet Indonesia? There is it says that Muhammad is the last prophet, right? There is another prophet in Indonesia. I was like, oh, there's another prophet. So Muhammad is the last prophet. And what is this? Some kind of new like kind of prophet? I was like that. Also, many people in Indonesia believe they are, I don't know, like believe they are from Alexander the Great. So I was like, so it's from Iskandar. So I was in this. The sound is for like, whoa, it's very Hindu, like no Indo, like Indian language. So I was like, oh, it's from Sikandar, because I thought if we come from Alexander the Great, doesn't mean we like more Greeks instead more like Hindu Buddhists. I was like, what the hell? Like, I don't believe anymore. Oh my god! I just like search for it. Oh, it's from Indian only like that. Also,
Is the island of Borneo, is it Malaysian or is it Indonesian or is it like half and half?
no, it's ours Indonesian, not Malaysia, because Malaysia is ethnic groups like that. Indonesian is like nationality. So it's like
Yeah, I know, but I didn't know if the island of Borneo was like shared or if it was just Indonesian.
It's like shared because Dutch and England business thing in the past. Once
Yeah.
it was ours. The president even and the people don't like it because it was ours for like thousands of years. Why was we be separated like that? I was like, I even don't understand why was we separate from the people from the other island from the Malaysian itself. Do we just just united like that?
The president of Indonesia is one of our son's favorite international politicians.
And yes, he does have favorite international politicians.
Yeah.
Which one? Which one? What's the president it is?
Hold on a second. Thaddeus! He's probably got his headphones in and can't hear me. Thaddeus! Come here real quick, hurry.
Well, if we get T started to talk about politics, we could have a long night. He absolutely loves talking about politics.
Tell us about the president of Indonesia.
Even international, whether domestic or international, he loves it either way.
Okay, tell us about the president of Indonesia and why you like him so much.
You mean Joko Widodo, aka Jokowi?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
I like him also very much.
I mean, he's done a lot of good stuff for the infrastructure, but also as a person, he just seems like a genuinely good person.
I think mostly he likes him because he listens to death metal.
Jokowi is known for listening to death metal.
Yes. Yeah, so I can a little bit like of the death metal, but not that much.
My son and I both listen to a lot of death metal.
Thaddeus. I'm talking to the young Thaddeus, the 17-year-old one, not the 22-year-old.
What's your question?
Are you going to get the new PlayStation 5? Are you a gamer?
Yeah, Rory wants to know if you're a gamer. Do you want the new PlayStation 5?
Nah, I'm much more of a PC gamer.
He prefers computer gaming.
Oh my goodness, the torture will never end.
PC gamer here.
He's a PC gamer.
I'm a console gamer, and he's torturing me by saying he's a PC gamer.
Hey, PC rule the world. What do you expect? PC ruling the world now.
All right, he just headed downstairs, but yeah, no, he has favorite politicians throughout the world. He's a weird kid, man.
Yeah.
I bet he likes George Bush.
But yeah, Indonesia is one of his favorite countries.
I don't know why, but...
And I've tried to get him to let's go visit sometime. And I would love to visit, mostly because I love history and I kind of want to visit Krakatoa. But
yes.
he's like, no,
he must.
He wants to see the World War II battle sites. But we'll get there eventually. Like I said, I'm trying to convince the husband to do missions work. But I'm not sure I can handle a city like Jakarta. That's a little too crowded for me. I'd need to be further out. I mean, when your city is so crowded that they're building a brand new capital city because the capital city is too crowded, that's too many people.
Of course, the Java is island of many people. 100 million more. So yes.
I mean, I barely survived Beijing and Shanghai when we were there last year. I mean, and they only have 25 million, and that's too many.
Nah, I think Beijing is a small city to me. Even though I never go there.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's just so many people in there. Also, when will you go here? Also, I have question to you both, Miss and Mister. Are you out creationist or theistic evolution or the ESC stuff thing? I don't believe in those ESC stuff, by the way. Young out creationist thing.
Did you catch that, honey?
No.
Yeah, I
no.
didn't quite catch it either.
Do you actually believe in out creationist thing or theistic evolution like that? You know, like Christian.
So the question is whether we believe in theistic evolution or old Earth or young Earth, or what our is on
so
that.
I do not believe in the 6,000-year-old Earth.
Same.
I don't believe that's a thing.
I never believe it.
I know there are probably some people in the chat that do and are going to rip me a new one. It happens. We're in a Bible study group at our church that the entire group is New Earth people, and every time they start, Thaddeus and I kind of just look at each other and we're just like, okay, keep our mouths shut. Don't say anything.
It's like we're studying the book of Ephesians. We don't need to bring up the age of the earth again. Come on, people.
I feel like it's kind of arrogant to assume that a day, our time is the same time as God's time. I just think that's kind of arrogant. But that's just my opinion. Of course, everybody has a different opinion. There's this really great book called The Science of God that I think explains my viewpoint really well. And, the day in between day 1 and day 2 could have been 20 billion years.
Oh, yes.
And that could have been a day for God. We don't know what God's time frames are like.
Oh, also, yeah, we don't know.
I recommend you to watch Inspiring Philosophy. He is very good person on Christian and theistic evolution. Have you watched it, Mr. Thaddeus?
Yes, I'm definitely a fan of Inspiring Philosophy. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels.
Yeah, man, the explanation of him is very good.
Yeah, his the age of the Earth isn't a very important topic to me, or how we came to be isn't a very important topic for me personally. But I absolutely love his theology videos. They're very excellent.
But it's one of those topics that I feel like so many people get so hung up on, and it's a topic that's become so divisive, and I'm not exactly sure why. When it's not something that really even matters. I mean, so what if I believe the world is actually billions of years old and you believe it's only 6,000? Do we still believe that Jesus is the only Son of God and that he was sent to the world to save us? Yes. Okay, fabulous.
Because the core of Christianity is not about all earth or something, because core is Jesus itself. Because it never was about the past, it was about Jesus.
Exactly.
Oh, and also, how do you can counterfeit the Muslim? If you go here and preach something like apology, how are you gonna counterfeit the Muslim in here? Because Muslim in here very toxic. They just plain stupid. They just spamming something, bring some let's bring some 10,000 people, and they just the Christian mass don't have people at all, and many more. So they just gonna spamming like the Dutch, the England, the Portuguese, the everything. You see, Islam come here in peace. So when we examine the future evidence like history, if they come in peace, then why the Sultanate of Denmark attacking their own father like that? Because the father never made mistake to the son, and the son never made mistake. So why would the son attack the father without reason? Because there is a Muslim guy in Wali Songo, I forgot what his name. He attacked the father for I don't know reasons, because one thing, kafir only. They have different belief. So the father like, what the hell? The son like, they just kill my father and claim the throne. Just like that.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to what we're talking a little bit about with Muhammad Hijab melting down.
Muhammad.
But you know, in the West, that's the extent of it is, you know, someone throws a temper tantrum on YouTube or Twitter or whatever. But in many parts of the world where the Muslims are in the majority, that someone with the same inclinations can just go around killing Christians if they want. And you know, Islamic law will says that there it says okay, it says don't kill Christians, but if you do, there's no penalty for it. So it's kind of the same thing as saying you can kill Christians if you want, since you're not supposed to do it, but there's no penalty against it. And of course, that's just generic Christians. If it's people who are criticizing Islam, well, then it's 100% expected that you take care of those people because they're insulting the prophet. They're insulting the beautiful religion. And you got to get rid of them, or they might corrupt others and make them want to leave Islam.
Beautiful religion, and you're going to kill people because that means you're afraid of criticism. If Islam's the truth, it should stand up to scrutiny, right?
Absolutely.
We would all agree. Even an atheist would agree with this.
Right? Yeah, you know, we've been seeing this a lot, manifesting itself on through the YouTube Muslim critics, and but really, this is the heart of Islam. This is the way it's always behaved. It's just that Muslims in the West, either they actually have been taught that Islam is peaceful and they believe that, and they haven't really done an in-depth study of it. I'm sure that's probably, you know, 90% of Muslims in the West, or they know that it really teaches these things, but they know it's beneficial to Islam to pretend that it doesn't. That, you know, when you're in the minority, you're supposed to make peace. That's the example Muhammad gave. When he was in the minority, he went out of his way to make peace with the with
47, 36 or 35, 47 of the Quran, chapter 47, verse 36, I think.
Yeah. So when he you know, his first period, he was in the minority, went out of his way to make peace. There's Quran verses that say don't fight anyone, even if they attack you, don't fight. And then those were abrogated when he got a large enough following that they could fight defensively. That when people attacked them, they could attack back. And then when he got a large enough following and it was in the majority, well, suddenly those were abrogated, and the final marching commands of the Quran are fight those who don't believe in Allah and make them submit to you. If they're Jews or Christians, they can pay a tax, the jizya, and as long as they feel that themselves inferior, as long as they feel themselves subdued, they can stay alive. For people who are not people of the book, Jews and Christians, and maybe Zoroastrians, there's some debate whether they were included or not, there's only one option: convert to Islam or be killed.
Oh yeah,
that's for everyone else. Yeah.
So, you know, most Muslim countries, even today, they do have laws against attacking Christians or, you know, non-Muslims in general, but they are not normally enforced when someone takes the law into their own hand. When or alternatively, you know, when someone in the family does something that dishonors the family and they do an honor killing, no one is prosecuted. The prosecutor says, well, there's nothing to see here. The book on the wall might say it's illegal, but in reality, it's not.
Okay, how did we get into these topics? It was about Thaddeus' birthday.
No, this is exactly what I expected. That, you know, it's just a hangout. People can ask whatever questions they want. I mean, I don't want to talk about myself.
Light in the mood. Okay, light in the mood for half a second. Tell us a fact that you think we might not know about you.
Well, I think you would know everything.
Okay, fine. That other people might not know about you.
Let's see. What is something unusual? How about to show just how amazingly nerdy I actually am? When I was in high school, I was on the chess team, and I was the first board, meaning I was the best player on our chess team. I would spend hours a day playing chess online. Old server called the Free Internet Chess Server Fix. I don't know if it still exists or not. I haven't played chess in years, but I would spend hours playing chess over the internet with random people to, you know, improve my game. I'd read books and whatnot, and yeah, I was really into chess.
I'm not good at chess.
So just about, I don't know if you can think of something more nerdy than being a chess
What
player.
about your
but-
butterflies?
Oh, yeah, so that's another fun fact. We have a butterfly cage that we keep on our back porch. We have purposely grown milkweed to attract monarch butterflies to lay their eggs on. When I find a caterpillar on the plant, I rescue it and put it in the cage so that no predators can get it. And then we release the butterflies when they grow up and become butterflies.
How many monarchs have we released this year so far?
I don't have an exact count, but it's probably in the range of 15 to 20.
And we released 20 to 30 last year.
Yep.
Yeah. So the milkweed garden started because of the grumpy neighbor. You can tell the grumpy neighbor story because
I mean, that's not why the garden started. If
that's
you're
why
referring
it
to the guy
expanded and got big. That's why it expanded and got bigger.
So, okay, so our next door neighbors, well, okay, some background. We do not like treat our yard with like weed killer and such that most people do. So there's lots of weeds in our yard. We kind of just let it be somewhat natural. I don't always
I'm a hippie.
I don't always mow it quickly. Sometimes it gets pretty long before I mow it. So anyway, our next door neighbors are similar, that they let plants grow, and she's actually a beekeeper. She keeps bees. And so she's very big on letting the natural flowers grow, so the bees have pollen to harvest and whatnot. And no pesticides, because those are harmful to bees and whatnot. So they have some milkweed growing in their yard, and they gave us a seed pod. We kind of just threw it in our one flower bed, and then a few milkweed plants grew up that year. And then I was just taking out the trash one day, and some guy was walking his dog, and
there were 3 dogs, remember, and they were in sweaters.
There was at least 2.
That's the kind of guy
that. Anyway, he was walking his dogs. The fact how many there were there in sweaters isn't actually relevant. Anyway, he was just walking by, and he's like, "You got to clean that garden up?" I'm like, "No, we purposely are letting the milkweeds grow." And he's like, "Absolutely lazy. You people are ruining the property value for this whole neighborhood," type deal. "Just because you're so lazy." I'm like, "No, we're growing the plants on purpose." So we expanded the flower bed that they're in, and there are now like 20 or 30 milkweed plants growing in that garden. And we got a sign that says, natural garden,
Pollinator friendly
welcome.
garden. My best friend bought it. It's like this huge metal sign, and it says pollinator garden with a big monarch on it. Yeah, and then the backyard has 2 big native wildflower gardens, and we're in the process of turning like a third of the backyard into a native Midwest prairie. So it'll be like tall grasses and native flowers. So ironweed, Joe Pye weed, goldenrod, asters, all of the things you would see in a prairie if you just went out to the prairie in the Midwest, to attract more hummingbirds and butterflies to the mix. But yeah, so, and this all came about because that guy was like so appalled that I dare have weeds in my yard. So I was like, oh, he doesn't like weeds, I'll show him weeds. I literally bought seeds like that day. I was like, oh.
Okay, can I say something?
And our yard is now actually certified as a native wildlife habitat by the National Wildlife Federation. So I actually have a big plaque that I need to hang up. I could just hang it on our mailbox. I have a big metal sign to hang up that says that our yard is a certified wildlife habitat by the National Wildlife Federation, because we've got everything that wildlife needs. And I will hang it up so that every time that neighbor decides to walk his dogs by our house, that little vein in his forehead will twitch. I don't know.
For all we know, he moved to another neighborhood by now.
Probably because our house was driving the property values down. I don't know. Like, seriously, don't mess with me and my wildflowers. Don't do it. Just don't. Don't mess with me and my bugs. Every time the guys that walk the neighborhood and they come to your house and they're like, we see you have spiders in the corner of your porch. I'm like, yeah, they eat the mosquitoes. Don't kill them. Leave them alone. Or, well, you've got a such and such here. I'm like, and what's wrong with the bug? Yeah. Like, don't spray my house. Leave me alone.
Can I say something?
Yep.
Can I say something? Yeah. Well, happy birthday, Thaddeus. Like I said before, you don't look 40, you look 30 or younger, between late 20s and 30s. I was going to say, support Thaddeus on Patreon. You're on Patreon, right?
Yes.
Support him on Patreon, brothers and sisters. And I also got a new channel. It's called The Lion of Christ 2. Right? It's a new channel that I made. I could give you the real reasons why I made this new channel, but it's going to be embarrassing, and I don't think it's wise to give you the real reason.
Okay, you don't have to.
But I can't lie about it. But then again, keeping yourself silent is not the same as lying, is it?
Yeah, I mean, we're not asking, so you don't have to tell us.
Okay.
So Layla said, I don't look a day over 39. So that's kind of a funny way to put it. So a little while ago, Chloe says, I also liked A Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. That's definitely a very good book. It's probably, I would guess it's probably the best-selling apologetics book of modern times at the very least.
It's a good starter. It's really simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good introduction. It's written in a way that's really easy to comprehend. You know, Lee was a reporter. He was an atheist. He was challenged to kind of investigate whether Christianity was true or not. So he started.
Oh! Sorry.
Cat jump on your foot?
Yeah.
So as most of you probably know, Crystal suffers from a condition CRPS that gives hypersensitivity in her foot. So if it is touched, she gets excruciating pain. And unfortunately, you can see what that looks like right now.
He stepped right on the incision. I also just had surgery 2 weeks ago. And I just got clearance to be out of the boot when I'm sitting down. But when doctors tell you you don't have to be in the boot when you're sitting down, they don't take into account that you have 15-pound cats.
That might step on you.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's quite all right. So as I was saying, you know, Lee was kind of challenged to investigate the truth of Christianity. He started interviewing people. And, you know, I'm pretty sure that this is pretty close to exact quote. He's like, the last thing in the world I wanted to do was become a Christian. His wife was an atheist when he married her, and she had converted to Christianity the previous year. So that's kind of what spawned this. He wanted to prove that Christianity was false so that she would leave Christianity. And then he was surprised to discover that the evidence is really strong that it is, in fact, not false. And that's the Case for Christ is his first book, the one that came out of that investigation. So it's, you know, it covers all of the important issues in apologetics. It's obviously not the most advanced book. It's intended to be read by the public who know nothing about it. So it's definitely a good first apologetics book to read. The reason I said, at least in modern times, it might be the best selling. Of course, Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis is the classic in the field. He focuses, well, I mean, he goes through, you know, a lot of arguments, but he's very big on moral argument.
I love
Whereas
C.S.
Lee
Lewis.
is much more interested in historical argument.
You guys should see my foot. Obviously not the incision. Let's not demonetize Thaddeus before he even has a chance. But here, I'm going to show you the pretty, pretty bruising. Here, hold on. Look, it's purple.
Ugh,
Whee!
nasty.
So pretty. That's what surgery does to your sad, fat, sad foot. It's just a bruise and you called it nasty? Really? I didn't even show my incision.
Yeah, we kind of saw it a tiny bit. It's true. It could be a lot worse for sure.
Yeah, I had surgery on my CRPS and affected foot on the 2nd. We're trying to get the pain under control by making my ankle more stable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm less human. I now have 2, is it 2 or 3? He told you I was still under. Was it 3?
I don't think he specified the number.
No.
But I'm pretty sure it's 3.
I have anchors holding my ligaments together because I originally had a Brostrom procedure where everything gets tightened, but then my ankle got resprained, which loosened them out, but you can't redo a Brostrom. So once that happens, they go in and they replace your ligaments with anchors. So I have little bolts in my femur, not femur. That's my
guys.
thigh
I'm
bone.
gonna go now. I'm still gonna be in the chat.
And
see, peace of the Lord Jesus Christ will be with everyone. See you guys.
See ya. I have little bolts in my bones and anchors and mesh acting as ligaments now. So hopefully it'll keep my ankle stable and be less painful and make my nervous system calm the hell down. But so far, all it's done is make my nervous system ramp up because I have a 3-inch incision down the side of my foot. So at least my surgeon used the same incision from last time, so I only have 1 scar.
Priorities.
Hey, come on. It's almost sandal season.
What do you mean it's almost sandal season? The summer's just ending.
I wear flip-flops year-round.
I know, but you said almost.
I'm serious, guys. If it snows and we get a big snowstorm and there's like 6 inches of snow on the ground, I wear flip-flops.
Well, sometimes you wear flats, but you like basically never wear tennis shoes unless you're like going hiking or something.
Or to physical therapy because they don't allow open-toed shoes because they're mean. But yeah, I wear flip-flops in the snow. It's a thing.
Sure, why not?
I can't feel my toes on that foot anyway. Might as well fall off.
So as long as we're on book recommendations, Layla said I recommend Pilgrim's Progress, which I assume is an autocorrect for Pilgrim's Progress. Better sensitive than insensitive, probably referring to your foot, but making making a joke out of it.
It's true.
But yeah, Pilgrim's Progress is a classic work. It's definitely a must read, I think, for every Christian. My personal favorite apologetics book while we're on the subject, is Reasonable Faith by William Ring Craig.
Is that the one you loaned to Lauren?
Yes. A non-believing friend of ours. She is, I don't know how much I should discuss.
Don't.
Okay. Anyway, she just has some difficulties right now. So she was
Some
reconsidering
health issues.
health issues.
I think that's fair enough to share.
Yeah. She has some health issues, so it was making her reconsider her life choices, or her beliefs about the whether there is anything beyond the material world and whatnot. Had a good chat with her and then lended out that book to her. Anyway, as I was saying, Reasonable Faith is an introductory work, but it's more of an advanced level introductory work, if that makes sense. Like it doesn't take knowledge for granted, but it also goes into more philosophical depth to his arguments. And I think it's probably about as advanced a book could be and still be considered appropriate for someone who doesn't already have expertise in the subject.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Definitely. Well, and she had grown up in the church. So, I mean, she already had that background. So,
we do have one more question that Tatuanin had emailed me prior to the discussion today that I'll go ahead and cover. She said, do you believe babies have also sinned? I believe Bible has verses which tell that after some time a child learns good and evil, and after that he or she starts sinning. But the particular church that she is involved in teaches that everyone is born a sinner, even babies. So put a different way, this would be the question of original sin, a doctrine that has been prevalent in the church since it can't definitively be traced back to the very earliest Christians, but it certainly is a very ancient doctrine. The idea that we have somehow inherited sin from Adam, that it's part of our human condition, that we all are born sinners. So there's kind of two aspects to this. One would be like kind of the technical question of whether we're born sinners, but the more important and practical question is, what happens to a baby that dies? Some Christian denominations would teach that's why you have a baby baptized, to forgive the original sin, that they'll be responsible for anything they do later in life. The baptism isn't salvific in that sense, that you're not actually accepting Christ. Churches that do that have a later time where you still have to accept. Others say you have to accept, make your own conscious decision to accept before you can be baptized. But the real important question is what happens to the newborn who, let's just for simplicity say, is born to an unbeliever and then dies before it has a chance to grow up and commit sins that it itself is responsible for. The first thing I would say is that the Bible doesn't have any explicit teaching on what happens to the souls of babies that die, which kind of tells us that it's probably not something we should concern ourselves over, that God doesn't want us to dwell on the subject. If he wanted us to dwell on it, he'll probably give us explicit teaching on it. But we do have some implicit teaching. We see that like people from all nations come to God. We see that each person is responsible for their own sin, that they're not held accountable for other people's sins. So on those basis, I would say that odds are highly in favor that infants born to unbelieving parents who die would go to heaven. The other possibility that, now someone might say, if that wasn't the case, that would be immoral and God would be unjust. Well, the other possibility is that, God is all knowing, so he insists that he knows whether that person would grow up and accept him or not. So he judges them based on what they would have done if they grew up, or that he ensures that everyone who will never accept him anyway is born, or I mean, everyone that's born in a situation where they will die at a young age is someone that would have never accepted him anyway, and thus there would be nothing unjust about, them being sent to hell. So those are kind of the options. I would lean towards, though, that we aren't really born with original sense, in the sense that we have this inherited guilt that we're responsible for, and that would be the reason that we would go to hell. Now, if we're using original sense in a different context, that we're just born in this state where we're naturally inclined to sin, well, then I would say absolutely. Every human being is inclined to sin. Every human being who reaches the age of responsibility, where they can make a conscious choice whether to sin or not, inevitably does sin. So that was just what I would say on that matter. We have someone new joining us. Hello, question mark. The microphone's muted. They have unmuted them. So hello, question mark. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah. Are you a Jesus follower?
It's really quiet. I can't really hear you.
Bobby.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can hear some sounds, but it's too faint for me to make out what you're saying.
Can you just like leave me a shout out? Just say, you're the best.
Well, thank you. I don't know if anyone else heard that, but he just said he just wanted to say that you're the best. So thank you very much.
No, I'm the best, not you.
Oh, okay. So I assume that this is a troll then. And I will just go ahead and remove them. Simple as that.
Rory has a question for you. He wants to know what your favorite sport is.
Good question. So if we're talking about playing sports, my favorite sport to play as a kid was always baseball. I was on a rec league baseball team, and I really enjoyed that. If we're talking about watching sports, my favorite sport to watch is college basketball.
Tell them your favorite team.
My favorite team is Butler Bulldogs, and I don't watch much TV, but I do make a point to always watch the Butler basketball games. Crystal likes to make fun of me because I tend to clap when they do something exciting or whatever. She says that she needs to buy me a inflatable beach ball so I can be a seal.
Yeah. Can I tell my favorite sports?
Yes. What are your favorite sports?
Yay. Well, I played football and ice hockey. Because those are clearly sports that girls play. Not. Mostly I played football. And my favorite sport to watch is ice hockey. And my favorite team is the Dallas Stars. And they won last night in game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, 4-1. They beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. Game 2 is tomorrow. I'm so excited. Guys, I'm sorry. It's the first time that they have been in the Stanley Cup Finals for 20 years since I was in high school. So, like, I'm just like, ah! And he's just, like, making fun of me. So, you know. It's a thing. I'm like really obsessed with hockey. I like scream at the television. He says that he can tell the score based on how many times I've screamed either yay or for certain 4-letter words that I'm not gonna repeat on his channel.
Mm.
Because they're not so great.
Yes, she's very animated when watching hockey?
I call out the refs if they are making obviously bad calls, because let's be honest, the guys in the zebra stripe crap, they're quite clearly awful sometimes. And I like to call out the bad hits and the bad plays, and when the goalie makes, especially when the goalie makes or when the goalie doesn't make a save and the goal is soft, then that sets off my screamometer, and he's like, what the hell? So yeah, I'm quite animated when I watch my ice hockey. So yeah, if you ever want to be entertained, come over to our house and watch hockey with me, apparently. So, hey, Colin.
Sorry, I fell asleep while you're talking about sports, so I'm just
Oh,
dozing off.
shush.
Happy birthday, Islamophobe.
Well, thank you. My favorite comment that I get periodically is white devil, though. So you should call me a white devil.
I haven't got that one in a while. Maybe I banned everybody who calls me a white devil. I don't know.
Quite plausible.
Yeah, the list is getting longer. I like banning trolls.
Thaddeus just puts up with them, and then he'll sit on the couch and he'll be like, do you want to hear the latest funny conversation? As he like reads from the laptop while I'm like watching TV, like, sure, but I really don't really listen.
Oh, yes, you do. I only read them to you because you ask me to, because you think they're hilarious.
It gets really repetitive after a while, though, doesn't it? It gets repetitive because it's like I think Muslims all pull from the same deck of cue cards and they just shuffle it occasionally, and it's like, oh, here's the Islamophobe card, and they just type that in the comments section. I think that's pretty much how that works.
He replies much nicer than I would, because I'm much more blunt and snarky than he is. So maybe I should reply just like once and see what they do.
Well, they'll really be set off if they realize a woman's doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't told you this yet, Crystal, but this past weekend, not yesterday, or not today, but a week ago today, Hatun was escorted out of Speaker's Corner. The Muslim mob was trying to attack her, so the police had to remove her for her safety.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, apparently a tiny little woman who weighs, I don't know, 100 pounds or something is a major threat to Islam. And so they all have to shout her down and threaten to attack her physically.
Oh, yeah. She looks so dangerous.
She's like, think about the Muslim perspective. This is the woman who we have one miraculously preserved Quran, right? So this woman, along with Jay, brings like 30-something Qurans to Speaker's Corner, okay? And then you get this other guy, I don't know these people's names, but this other Muslim who stands up, okay, scratch that, we have the perfectly preserved Hassan Azam. That's the one that's perfect, to the dot, to the word, to the letter, the sound. So here comes Hatun with her 7 Hassan Azam Qurans that are all different. And then she's the guy who busts, is it Adnan Rashid? That she got, and what she did with him was she caught him making YouTube videos and then doing the research after. So he basically produces these YouTube videos and then goes on Twitter hunting down Western scholars, because he doesn't have any confidence in his own scholars, hunting down Western scholars saying, in effect, is my video, correct? And it's not even close. And so she busted him doing that. She's just relentless. And so Muslims are just getting tired. She's also very bold, not afraid at all. And gets under their skin.
Yeah.
She started bringing physical copies of the Quran with holes punched in them. And that's what's set them off particular, because it's a visual representation of what she's been saying, that they claim it's perfectly preserved, but as Yasser Qadi admitted, there's holes in the narrative if you believe it's perfectly been preserved.
Oh man, that's awesome.
It's been an interesting year in 2020 that apparently the Menge guy has been arrested for child pornography. That's about 90% confirmed. Have you seen that?
No, I hadn't heard that one.
So there's a video online that shows the police invasion and getting all of this guy's hard drives and so forth. And there's a guy that looks like him, but you can't tell. But Rob Christian pointed out to me that in this police video, they show his bookshelf and he has these figures on his bookshelf. And then he showed me a screenshot of this guy's YouTube videos, and those exact figurines are there in the same positions in the same order. And supposedly someone did the translation work, and it looks like it's this guy. So, you know, he's a has-been Muslim apologist trying to get back on the stage, and it looks like he might be behind bars.
Yeah,
Muhamad Hijab, of course, is doing a great job, and Ali Dawah and all the rest. There's that darn cat.
Yep.
Hey,
He finally got in.
Tom.
He's been
You're
sleeping
not a
until
cat
now.
person?
It's kind of cute.
So Rory in the chat asks how you've been, Colin.
Busy. It's been a very busy month, and speaking 3 times at the local church, and then trying to do the Islam thing, and of course all the other stuff. So it's been a very busy month, and just now sitting down to do some recording for the first time in a while because I haven't had time. But yeah.
Is your church having in-person services yet?
Yes, we do currently a hybrid, and so we have in person, and then we stream that out to a server as well. So today was actually the largest crowd so far, which is almost like with the social distancing rules, it was almost full. So it was a little bit weird to see, but good. I'm all for the John MacArthur approach, personally. Yeah, he's been under a lot of pressure out there in California. And he's been issued rules to abide by if he wants to stay open. And these rules are custom made to shut him down. And his position is basically, we're going to keep meeting and you can do what you like. So
arrest me if you have to.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah, our church is meeting we've got a tent set up outside.
Okay. So
but our church is our sanctuary is tiny because our church was built in 1872.
Mm-hmm.
And it was originally built as a tiny farm church for an outlying community. So you can social distance in it, but you could fit like maybe 2 people per pew.
So this time of year outside is probably pretty nice, right? As far as like weather and stuff. I mean,
it's getting cold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're having a meeting this week actually to discuss what we're going to do next month. Whether we're going to have it inside the church or not. We sent out a survey to the congregation to see what they wanted to do, and we'll get the results back and discuss them this week.
Are you going to go to the meeting Thursday, or are you going to Zoom in?
So it's not going to be a regular council meeting. It's going to just be a small group meeting with a few select people rather than everyone decide. And they did invite me to go. It's actually Tuesday though.
But you can't go because you have to quarantine.
Well, I figured I would go. It's only going to be like 4 people or 4 or 5. I forget which. I figured I would go.
Okay, that's fine. You're supposed to quarantine in between your COVID test and your surgery to make sure you don't catch COVID in between your test and your surgery.
Yeah, so this morning I was swabbed for a COVID test. I have surgery on Thursday, minor surgery, laparoscopically repairing a hernia, but you're supposed to self-quarantine between the time you get the test and the surgery. But the instructions say don't go to work, don't go to school, have minimal contact with the public as much as you can. So I figured having socially distanced contact with 4 people is fine.
Yeah, I think you're probably fine.
You'll be down for a while after that surgery, I'm sure.
Nah, 1 week.
Really?
Yeah, the doctors, I said, how soon can I go back to work? And he said, well, what do you do? I said it's an office job. He's like, yeah, 1 week's enough. if you're like doing heavy lifting or something, yeah, you'd have to take a month off, but office job 1 week.
Awesome. So what's your vote going to be? Saying meet inside, continue outside? What are your thoughts on this kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm all for meeting inside. If people don't want to come, they don't have to come.
Yeah.
We're going to, we've been doing a Zoom service and also putting it up on YouTube. So we're definitely continuing that option either way. We've had a lot of really positive response from that. People who like moved out of state and, you know, used to be connected with the church have been watching those services and joining in. So it's been really good, actually.
Yeah. It's good for the audience. It's very difficult when you're speaking because you get no feedback. You know, you're just talking to a computer screen. It's really difficult to do. Even now, like with the congregation wears masks, right? And so you don't get any of that kind of visual, emotional feedback.
Yeah.
It's
you don't get the facial expressions. You don't get the cues. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless people are like laughing out loud or shaking their heads, like you have no idea if they're tracking with you or not. So.
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely.
cool.
Thaddeus and I kind of differ on how we feel about in-person service. Again, like I said, it's a tiny, tiny sanctuary. It was never expanded. Because I mean, it never had a reason to. We have a small congregation, but I'm immune compromised. So
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
So
I don't feel, I don't feel comfortable going.
Yeah.
Even with masks and distancing, because it is such a small room. Such a small room. And the ventilation is not adequate because it was added so much later. You know, that's
a valid concern for sure. Yeah.
Just is what it is. And Thaddeus like, well, T and I will go. And I'm like, but if you go, then you're just gonna bring home what I would have gotten if I would have gone in the first place. Like
I said not really though, because there's a difference between you being exposed to the air and breathing it in.
So
and us actually being exposed and catching it and bringing it home and exposing you. So they're not quite the same thing.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, we may or may not attend in person. We have been attending the outdoor service though. So
yeah, but it's outside. So
right.
But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff to figure out. I'm also in charge of the Boy Scout troops and Cub Scout packs that meet at the church. Our son is in the Boy Scout troop, and we've got to figure out, obviously they're allowed to use the buildings, but the rules for them using the building and making sure that they clean and sanitize behind themselves. And it's just going to be fun.
Difficult.
Yeah. So, it's just, logistics. Having an adult at the door, making sure they squirt some hand sanitizer into every Boy Scout's hand as they walk in or something,
Yeah, we did vote at council to reopen the church for the Boy Scouts, regardless of whether we have in-person services or not. Because there was some debate as whether we should allow outside groups to use the building or not, if we're not having service, but we did vote.
Provided, if we sign a waiver.
Yes, that's true. They have to sign a waiver for insurance purposes.
Yep.
Our insurance company was quite insistent that anyone who's not a member of the church who wants to use the building has to sign a waiver, or if someone chose to sue the church, we wouldn't be covered.
Yep. So I have to go to the Boy Scout meeting tomorrow night and talk to them about that form and hand out those forms. Claudia printed a bunch of them. They're on her desk.
So Joe Demars has a good question here. He says, in your personal opinion, do you view non-Trinitarian Christians as heretics?
Ooh.
So the easy answer is yes, but we need to be careful about that. Because in my personal opinion, there might be a difference between having a heretical view and having a damnable view. I think it's clearly heretical in that it's an important teaching of the church. It is clearly taught by the Bible that God is multi-personal. So if you are teaching something different, then you're clearly going against a core Christian belief. And then by definition, you are a heretic. Now, the more difficult question is, does that mean you're automatically not saved? And that I would tend to say probably not, that you probably could be a heretic and still achieve salvation if you believe in the saving grace, unmerited grace of Jesus on the cross. I think your view would be inconsistent with the Bible. I don't see how you could believe that and take seriously that an ordinary man could die for your sins. But if you believe that, I would tend to think that probably within the realm of salvation. I'd like to hear Colin's thoughts on that one.
I think his follow-up's important. He says in his follow-up comment, regular Christians who don't understand or accept the Trinity. And that was my first kind of nuance that I would want to put into his question, who don't understand. I mean, rather than painting them with a broad brush, I would want to first question a Unitarian's competency as a Bible interpreter. Okay, so what are you going to do with the fact that Jesus is demonstrably included in the divine identity of the God of the Old Testament, but is yet separate, right? So when you start to ask these types of questions, for me, sometimes, I mean, it is ultimately a heretical view, but for me, I wonder how much of it stems from just ignorance, and maybe they haven't been taught well. So I wouldn't want to be too quick to, be critical. I would simply want to approach them and try to see if it's an issue of understanding and interpretation. I think that it's really difficult, especially if you're well grounded in the Old Testament, to come up with Unitarianism. And so I think that these people, would, especially ones who are open to this sort of dialogue, I think it would be interesting to talk to them and see if it's actually that they're rejecting something that they do know, or if they're simply not aware because they haven't been taught. But yeah, interesting question, and certainly a sensitive question. And I don't know, I've heard William Lane Craig talk about this before, and I believe that he says something similar to what you said, Thaddeus. I wouldn't go that far as to say where I think non-Trinitarians are with respect to salvation, but I would certainly be concerned about their competence as biblical students and interpreters.
Definitely. It's well put that, there's often a question of not having really studied the matters deeply, and, just kind of looking at it at a superficial level. You don't understand how God could be three on one aspect and one another. So you say, well, he must be one. I don't believe in three gods. I know I don't believe in that. So it's got to be that there's only one God. And, I just don't understand what the Trinity is. And I don't think that anyone would be damned for simple misunderstanding. I don't think that God is that petty. I don't think he expects us to have perfect doctrine. So yeah, that would be my thoughts on it. Interestingly, when I have occasionally had talks with, non-Trinitarian, primarily Unitarian type Christians, I often find that they're very sure of what they don't believe, but they very rarely have a coherent view. They're very quick to say, well, I don't believe in the Trinity. Well, then, when I press them, well, what do you believe about Jesus? And then they're just like, I don't know, but I don't believe in the Trinity. Because as soon as you nail it down, obviously there's basically two options. Either Jesus is God, and then if you're going to say a non-Trinitarian view, you got to go with some sort of oneness view or Jesus is the Father, which is very difficult to reconcile with the scriptures, or you got to say he's not God, and which is also nearly impossible to reconcile with the scriptures. So usually what I find is that, you know, they don't really know what they believe. They just know what they are against.
Yeah, and it's, what do you do once you see that Christ is included in the divine identity, right? What do you do with that? And this is something we discussed, and I spoke on 2 Peter 3:1-7 today. And one thing that we looked at is the way Peter uses the day of the Lord concept, not only in verses 1-7, but the entire chapter 3. And he actually uses 5 different designations for the day of the Lord in a span of 10 verses. And one of those designations is the promise of his coming, and it's put in the mouth of the scoffers who are challenging the Christian beliefs. And Peter also equates the parousia of Christ in chapter 1 with the parousia of God in chapter 3, right? So this is just another example of what we see in the Gospels about, you know, Jesus calms the storm in Matthew 8:23-27. The I am statements of John correspond to Isaiah and Exodus. Jesus is the Lord returning to his temple, and the prologue of Mark, drawing from Malachi, Isaiah, and Exodus. We see this in John's prologue as well. We see this in Matthew, Emmanuel. And so time and time again, Jesus is included in the divine identity. And one wonders how certain people who do not see Jesus's divinity would parse all of that information. And it just really seems to go back to really just ignorance. You know, you can't, for example, be familiar with the doctrine of the day of the Lord in the Old Testament and then come to the New Testament and see that it's the day of Christ and not have something go off in your mind saying, wait a second, the day of the Lord, the day of Christ, the day of the Lord Jesus Christ, these two are combined in the New Testament, right? And so there's just so many data points like this that explicitly point to Jesus's divinity, and they're present in Mark's gospel as well, of course, with Mark 14:62 and the reference to the cloud rider. Time and time again, right? So how do we parse this? And if, I don't know, I just don't see how Unitarians really kind of get around all of this information. You have Jesus included in the divine identity, yet he's distinct from the Father. And so, and we can do the same thing with the Spirit. And so once we parse all of these properly, if we're responsible interpreters, I really do believe that it just drives you ineluctably towards Trinitarian theology. As difficult, of course, as that is for some, like our Muslim friends. But.
Yes, I agree completely that the more you really understand the background, the Old Testament literature, the more you realize how actually explicit the New Testament is on this matter. You know, if you only read it in English without any cultural background, maybe it's a little bit hard to see sometimes. Now, other times it's pretty obvious, like when Jesus is accused of blaspheming, making himself equal to the Father. You know, that's pretty explicit in any language. But the more you study it, the more you realize how explicit it really was for the original audience.
His follow-up comments are talking about Jesus is his Son, the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of the Father. Two beings, not three, is what they say. Okay? I'm not sure what's the point of.
So earlier he said he was looking at a Seventh-day Adventist church, which, I mean, I'm pretty sure is usually considered a Trinitarian church. Obviously, their big thing is to worship on Saturday instead of Sunday. I know some people like to say that the Adventists are a little bit heretical, but I would consider it within the realm of normal Christianity. The language he's using kind of sounds a lot like what the oneness Pentecostals type churches say, that the Son is, you know, a different aspect of God, and the Father's a different aspect, but they're one being, and those are just terms used to describe different aspects. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure where he's going with this, especially the two beings part. You know, I'm not aware of any church that teaches what we might call bininity or something like that.
Binitarianism or something, yeah. Interesting. I don't know. So I'm not sure what the relevance is. They say they don't deny the divinity of Jesus, but say God is his Father and Jesus is his Son. I'm not sure what the relevance of that statement is. Of course, that's Trinitarian, at least on the surface. But yeah, if well, Joe, just clarify what the sonship has to do with your comment, if you don't mind.
A little while ago, while we're waiting for him to respond, Styles said he should create his own channel, Islam Do Not Critique, and then he put a hand covering the face emoji. I thought that was pretty funny.
A hand covering the face emoji, really? It's called a face palm.
No, it's not a face palm, because it's like if you see the emoji, it's more like an embarrassed face. It's not a face palm for sure. I don't know what the emoji is called, but it looks embarrassed.
And Joe, he talks about, he says the spirit.
It's the laughing face.
He says the spirit is the spirit of a father. Okay, so Romans 8:9, you, however, are not in the flesh, but in the spirit, if in fact the spirit of God dwells in you. Anyone who does not have the spirit of Christ does not belong to him. So I'm not sure how we would try to say that the spirit is only the spirit of the Father when the spirit is referred to as the spirit of Christ as well. So
yeah, I mean, that's another great example of what you were talking about earlier. You know, the day of the Lord, the day of Christ, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of Christ.
Yeah.
Taking the same language and applying it directly to Jesus.
Mm-hmm. The sonship of Jesus also can be understood against the Old Testament, because what does a child of God do in the Old Testament, right? If you're functioning as a child of God in the Old Testament, according to the Torah, you have various roles and responsibilities. Okay, so an obvious one would be priest, right? So that's one of them. King would be another one. From Genesis 1, we get royalty language as well. You're a king, you're a queen, because of the way that they're described in ancient Near Eastern terminology. You have imagers, right? So if we just take those things, the children of God in the Old Testament are image bearers, they're kings and queens, they're priests. Okay, if you are a child, if you are a human in the Old Testament and you are functioning the way God wants you to, you are at least those things. We could talk about more. Okay, if Jesus is God incarnate, if he's human, then what is he by definition? He's a child of God, because he is what in the New Testament? He's our great high priest, right? He's our king. He is the perfect image of God. Okay, and so these Old Testament functions then are perfectly fulfilled by Jesus and then reapplied to believers, where we reign with Christ. We are a kingdom of priests, right? We are being conformed to the image of Christ. And so I think that it may help to see Jesus's sonship. And why does he have that status? Because he is God incarnate, and God incarnate by definition is going to fulfill God's will perfectly. And so therefore, God incarnate is by definition, God in human form is therefore a son of God, a child of God, right? This is obviously used throughout Exodus and through Hosea, another significant son passage out of Egypt. I called my son, that of course Matthew recalls in his gospel. So if there's any confusion about the sonship of Christ, I would recommend looking at that from the perspective of his humanity and the roles and responsibilities that humanity was supposed to perform in the Old Testament. And maybe that helps understand the sonship relationship a bit. Either way, I think that's a really interesting background to see, the Son of God language and how that applies to Jesus. You can actually go through, and I've done this, and I've looked at all of the roles and responsibilities that I can find, everything from imager to king to priest and so forth. And you can actually find in the New Testament where Christ fulfills those and where they're reapplied to believers. And so we're included in that identity because of Christ's atoning work. So
Yeah, that's excellent. I never really considered that aspect of the sonship, but I really like that. That fulfilling God's will makes you a child of God. So of course, Jesus is the Son in that respect.
Yeah. Yep. And Jesus is our great high priest. We're a kingdom of priests, recalling that Exodus language. It all, God's plan in the Old Testament is fulfilled by Christ in the New Testament, and it's fulfilled for us in Christ. And so God's plan hasn't changed. That's the cool thing. It's still the same as it was. And so this is, the sense of what's our relationship to the Torah? Well, we are fulfilling the Torah. We're fulfilling all those roles and responsibilities, but we're doing it in Christ and through Christ. So.
Excellent. I think that Styles is probably a little bit behind on the stream because he said, ouch, Crystal, that foot needs to practice social distancing, presumably earlier when the cat jumped on your foot.
I wish it could. I wish it could. Trust me. I even talked to my orthopedic surgeon about cutting the darn thing off.
Yeah,
literally, I did. It was a serious conversation about amputating.
Yeah, unfortunately, he said it would actually bring any relief, that the pain would just move up.
Yep. As the nature of CRPS, the pain just moves laterally up the body. So if you were to amputate my foot, it would just move up my leg. Yay!
And then you wouldn't have a foot, and for no reason. So not a good choice.
That is so difficult to understand.
What?
You can remove the area the pain is in, and the pain will simply relocate.
Yeah, because it's the pain is related to it's a malfunction of the sympathetic and peripheral nervous systems. It's
So
not
it's
actually
it's
related to an injury itself. Yeah.
It's not based on like the nerve endings in that area. It's something in the central nervous system. Wow.
Yep.
I hope they didn't try that on somebody. They figured that out.
They actually, when CRPS was first discovered, it was discovered by I don't remember. I used to know the name like right off the top of my head, but amputation used to be one of the top treatments because the pain just gets so unbearable you can't deal with it. I ended up in the emergency room Tuesday night just because I couldn't deal with the pain. And you just hope that somebody else has something, just another idea that maybe you haven't thought of. And so, yeah, even just 50 years ago, you just whack your limbs off.
Which, I mean, I guess it brings some relief for a little while, but eventually your body adjusts and puts the pain somewhere else. Because, one of the things that they tried early on was, he basically described it as the equivalent of rebooting your computer. They completely, they put her under and they kind of shut down the nerves, and then they
did not put me under.
I thought you were completely under, but in any case, they put a nerve block in the area.
They didn't even give me a Xanax. They just said, okay, lie on this table. Here's a big scary needle. We're going to inject some scary drugs into your spine.
I wasn't in the room. They weren't. When I had to wait in the waiting room for like 2 hours, I just assumed they put you under to do that. I guess not. Anyway,
different doctors do it differently. But yeah, I had 2 nerve blocks in my spine, lumbar nerve blocks. They didn't work. So yeah,
they said like a certain percentage of the time that'll fix the system, like basically turning it off and turning it back on again makes it reset itself, because there's nothing physically wrong with it. It's just the body's gotten out of whack and thinks it's in constant pain when it shouldn't really be physically.
So now I have a spinal cord stimulator and electrodes on my thoracic vertebrae. Yay me. I'm a robot. So when the robot overlords come and take over, I'll be like, no, I'm one of you. Please don't hurt me.
You'll be the leader. Well, I'm going to get off of here and do some recording. So again, happy birthday and enjoy your celebration.
Have a good night,
Absolutely.
Colin.
Bye.
So we have a question from Styles. He asked if cold hurts your foot.
Yes, cold is actually one of the worst things that you can put on a CRPS foot. So yeah, the cold isn't exactly the greatest, but I have hypersensitivity, which is worse. So real shoes hurt worse than the cold does, which is why I wear the flip-flops. But I do wear a compression sleeve, so I mean that helps keep some of the snow off my foot. So I mean, I don't wear the compression sleeve to keep the snow off my foot. I wear the compression sleeve because this sounds really lame. Okay, I always preface this, but this sounds lame. But a breeze hurts my foot. So I wear the compression sleeve so that if there's a breeze outside, I don't cry. So, yeah. I'm lame.
No, not at all.
So, yeah.
So Joe had a follow-up about the sun, which I'll get back to in a second. There's a couple comments related to the CRPS first, or at least needles. So Mr. Dynasty said, I used to cry anytime I have to have a needle when I was a young kid, such as vaccines or a blood test. And, you know, it's interesting that some people are you know, extremely scared of needles. I'm sure that there's a psychological reason for that, but I think it's really interesting because once you've had a shot once, you know that it really doesn't hurt very much less than, say, getting a cut, for example. So I think that.
Yeah, I'm pretty used to it now. Like last week, I had to get a steroid shot in my shoulder because my AC joint in my right shoulder is all messed up. I told you guys I'm a mess, right? And you know, your orthopedic doctor. I go to the same orthopedic clinic for all of my issues. Obviously, I don't see the same doctor because they specialize. So I see 3 different ones. And my pain management doctor used to be in that clinic. So I used to see 4 different doctors there, which was really funny. But anyway, all of the front office staff knows me by name, which is hilarious. But you know, they use the little freezy spray and they try to distract you with conversation. And doctor sticks the needle in my shoulder and starts putting in the fluid. And he's like, "You okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. It's just a needle filled with goo. I mean, whatever." I am so used to it at this point. But yeah, it's funny how you adjust to things. So maybe you'll get over your fear of needles.
Well, he said used to, so I think he's
Used to,
probably okay with
yeah.
it now. But you know,
And I had to get a bajillion shots before I went to China last year.
it is interesting though that children very often are scared of needles, but you know, you could come at them with a knife and they probably wouldn't be scared, even though the knife is actually, you know, I mean, it's bigger, it's sharper, and of course, knowledgeably, it's more dangerous. So I wonder what the psychology is that makes people afraid of needles specifically.
I don't know. But you know, it's really funny. I don't like having in an IV. I don't like.
Well, that
A needle
makes
for
sense.
an injection, I'm okay with. An IV,
Yeah, that makes sense because, you know, it's in your skin, you move it around a little and it hurts again. And it's not a pleasant situation to have an IV for sure.
How would you know? You've never had one. You'll find out on Thursday.
I don't know. I guess I've probably never had an IV. I can imagine what it feels like. I've definitely never been under, so I have no idea what that'll be like.
Oh man.
Let's see. So let's get back to the comment from Joe. He said, so he, meaning Jesus, is not literally God's son. It's just a title Well, I guess, I mean, that kind of depends on what you mean by literally, but if you mean that there's some sort of biological process involved, then absolutely. We don't believe anything like that. If it's helpful to say that it's a title, and it certainly is a title, then that's useful. But I think that the term son also encompasses a little bit more than just like, a generic random title. It shows the nature of the eternal relationship between the members of the Godhead, that, from all eternity, they've been loving one another the way that a father loves a son. So hopefully that's helpful. Hey, Villainous made it on. He says, happy birthday,
Hi, Ian.
Villainous, aka Illness. Yeah,
Okay, Style says my life sounds like a scene from the movie Braveheart. That's hilarious. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And what side am I on?
It could also be like that movie where the guy is attacked by the bear and has to like crawl out with like, I think that would
The
be a
one
good
that
movie.
finally won Leonardo DiCaprio the Oscar.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the movie offhand, but and I've never seen the movie, but just the idea that you've been attacked by a bear and you're in all kinds of pain and you have to kind of just keep going on, get out of there somehow. That definitely would be a good analogy for your life, I think.
I just like to think I like to think I'm Dory. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, 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 just keep swimming. That's pretty much it. She's a little bit more cheerful.
Styles explained what he meant. He said lots of
Pain and blood. Mostly just pain.
And Villainous said that he's on lunch break. Yeah, I guess it's already lunchtime in Australia. Monday lunch. Here it's 10:40 p.m. Almost bedtime. Yeah, we've been on 2 hours and 40 minutes. Crazy enough.
How have these people put up with you this long?
Well, I don't know how many people have been there the whole time. I think people have come and gone. Styles, I think, has been there pretty much the whole time. He said that he had to go out for a minute, but that he'd come back. So yeah, I mean, he's been there pretty much the whole time. And
he probably had to run to the liquor store. He probably ran out of vodka.
He said where he was going, but I forget. I don't think he was drinking though. Maybe he was playing a drinking game. Every time Thaddeus says something stupid, take a drink. Oh man, my bottle's empty.
Do you remember the time? Never mind. OCD, that's why it's still here.
Anyway, I was going to say that I'm pretty sure that IslamCritiqued was there most of the time, but I think that for the most part, people have come and gone, and the numbers have fluctuated as we've been going on.
Yeah.
If someone's been hanging out with us the entire nearly 3 hours now, that's a lot of dedication.
Yep. Just a little insight into our crazy, crazy life.
He went out. He says no, not vodka. He went out for snacks.
Oh. How did he know that's my nickname for vodka?
No.
Just kidding.
We are not heavy drinkers. In fact, I actually don't like alcohol. I don't have a moral objection to drinking alcohol, but I just don't like it. So I don't ever drink. Crystal drinks a little, but I don't know.
Not as much as I used to because the medications for my CRPS make it so I can't drink as much as I used to. Because medications that affect your central nervous system should not be mixed with alcohol that also affects your central nervous system. You can see how the two should go like,
Yeah, that makes good sense.
Yeah, it's fun. But
Yeah.
when you get me and my friends together, it's a whole different story. We might get a little crazy.
That's right. And it doesn't take much to get you drunk anymore since you have done very little drinking, and it's like two drinks and you're already feeling tipsy.
And my friends are insane, so they're all very much like me. We're all very free-spirited. So we just like to laugh and giggle, and it just gets crazy. And Thaddeus just quietly leaves the room. It's like, okay, I'm done.
So Villainous asked a serious question. He says that he's in a discussion with a Muslim and asks if they, which in this case would be Quranic scholars or Quranic textual critics, have a number refer system for fragments or manuscripts of the Quran. And, you know, I'm not an expert on this area, but to the best of my knowledge, they do not. That, you know, a lot of manuscripts have names, but, you know, they do vary. The tendency in the Islamic world has been to basically ignore the manuscript tradition, so they don't like have a lot of infrastructure in place for how to discuss them.
That doesn't make any sense.
He said, sorry for the serious question. No, I appreciate the serious question.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't make any sense from a Christian perspective, but, you know, so it's interesting though, because the medieval Muslim scholars that knew there was textual variants in the Quran, they were perfectly open about it. They discussed it. There's works written in Arabic and whatnot that are, you know, hundreds of pages that catalog the variants, you know, much like how Christian scholars do, so that they could, you know, discuss it, work it out, figure out what the original text was. And then at some point, it's not exactly clear when, but at some point, the people started to realize that it was much more, it was much easier and much more valuable for dawah or evangelism to just say that the Quran is perfectly preserved, that there's no variants whatsoever. I don't know if it was because maybe this happened around the time when it was becoming public knowledge within the Christian world that it had filtered down from the scholarly level to the public, and they were seeing that that many Christians' faith was shooken by this, realizing that there was a, you know, in reality what amounts to a few words, but it's a few words in the King James Bible that aren't based on anything that was original to the Bible, that they're added later. And, you know, it really shouldn't have bothered anyone. The message doesn't change in the slightest, but because it was such shocking information and people were bothered by it, maybe that's when Muslims started to adopt, well, you know, the Quran's perfectly preserved, where it's not like the Christian Bible where they got 800 different versions. And whether that's the reason it amounted to or not, that's certainly what they do with it today. We constantly hear from every Muslim, why are there so many different Bibles? No one knows what the text of the Bible is. The Quran's perfectly preserved, and it's just denying reality. The text, in reality, the textual tradition of the Quran is extremely similar to the textual tradition of the Bible. The only difference is, you know, we're honest about it and we care about discovering what the original text is, whereas Muslim leadership, for the most part, has said that they value a convenient lie more than the supposed words of their God. And I think it's just really sad that, you know, in reality, these variants really shouldn't be a big deal. They don't change the message of Islam in any way, but they're a huge deal because, you know, a large portion of the Muslim world has been raised on this lie that the Quran is perfectly preserved. So even if it doesn't substantially change the message, it's a big deal to learn that you've been lied to, because then it's like, well, what else have you been lying to me about? Styles says that he doesn't drink much. Alcohol puts him to sleep, but he is a bit of a social drinker.
It makes sense.
And then Villainous added that he's trying to lead the Muslim to that end as a process, that, you know, what I just talked about. And I think that that's a really important thing whenever you're talking about a Muslim, regardless of what the issue is, you know, exposing the lies that they've told on a particular issue in and of itself isn't a big deal. But, you know, there might be a better explanation than the lie they've been told, or it might not be a big issue in the end. But the thing is that the Muslims' confidence, by and large, is based entirely on their leaders, that, you know, they're taught things as they're growing up. They believe them because the people teaching them are very confident. And that, so what I always try to do is I just try to get them to start thinking for themselves that, you know, if the one issue that we're talking about probably isn't going to convince someone to leave Islam, even if I convince them that their position is wrong. They'll say, well, okay, fine, I don't have that one reason to believe in Islam, but I have these other 50 reasons that, and surely all those are true. And by the way, I'm not going to bring them up with you because I don't want I don't want you to tear those apart at some level. But I just try to get them to think for themselves, you know, actually do some investigation, see whether your beliefs are true. If Islam is true, then it should hold up to scrutiny, and you shouldn't be afraid of looking into it. Likewise, or, you know, on the other hand, I should say, if it's false, you probably should actually want to know that. I know it's really uncomfortable to realize what you've grown up in is wrong, that your family is wrong, that your parents are wrong, your grandparents are wrong. Some of them might be deceased and have no opportunity to change your mind, and you don't want to believe that all those people could be wrong. But really, you should want to believe because, or I mean, you really should want to believe what's true and not just hold on to something because you hope that it's true. I mean, same thing applies to Christians. If Christianity is false, you should want to know that. And I'm not afraid of the evidence. I think that a fair examination of all the evidence confirms my beliefs that, you know, Christianity holds up to historical scrutiny, and it holds up to whatever you want to level against it. So I'm not afraid of the truth, and I just encourage other people to think for themselves. Stiles said that the preservation of the Quran reminds me of the Berlin Wall. I think that that is an excellent analogy, actually, because we have, you know, in the Berlin Wall, it's like, as long as the wall's up, we have the illusion that East Germany is really strong. It couldn't possibly be toppled. But then the wall falls, and suddenly it's like, well, really, the state had essentially already fallen before that point. And I think that's a lot like what the state of Islam, you know, that's why all the Muslim apologists are panicking so much about the current situation with Yasser Qadhi coming out and admitting that the Quran is not perfectly preserved. That they know that you have this one small crack, and then suddenly everything falls apart because there really is very little underneath people's faith in Islam.
So now you know where the brains in the family are.
On a more humorous note, Mr. Dynasty said, reasoned answers, have you read the old Bible? Question mark, exclamation mark. You know, pretending to be a Muslim troll. That they come in with this. Sometimes they'll say, why are there 100 different translations or 500 different translations of the Bible? And it's like, well, those are translations, or they're not different Bibles, they're different translations. There's 50 or 100 different translations of the Quran into English if you actually look, and they do say slightly different things. But then they'll say, and the new revised version of the Bible, you know, referring to, say, the ESV or another recent translation, says things differently than the old Bible. Why do they keep changing what the Bible says? It's like, no, a translation's not the Bible. Calm down, calm down. So that's what that's all about. So we should probably be wrapping up soon since we're heading towards 3 hours. But if anyone has any pressing questions that they want me to talk about, go ahead and put those in the chat.
I have a question.
Sure.
How does it feel to be old?
Yeah, I'm by many standards, I'm officially old today. I've reached the age of 40. Feels exactly the same. You know,
How does it
if
feel to live in you're now officially living in a different decade than your wife?
That's true. Not the first time that happened though, because
I
we've
know.
been married more than 10 years.
I know.
But you know, they say you're only as old as you feel. Well, if that's true, then you know I'm like 25 or 30, and Crystal's like 80 or 90.
Shut up! Sleeping on the couch.
Not
Happy birthday to you.
not because of her mental state, just because of her health issues. She's very fun-loving and young from a mental point of view.
Everybody's been waiting 2 hours. Actually, I did have a surprise party organized, and I had to cancel it because of COVID. And when I told Thaddeus that I had a surprise party set up and that I had to cancel it, he was like, "Thank you, COVID, for sparing me from a social engagement that would have been awkward and uncomfortable."
I mean, I would have been fine, but it wouldn't have been my choice of what to do for my birthday for sure. You know, my parents are very much like me. That they're very introverted, and my mom was talking about COVID and social distancing and everything. She's like, you know, it really hasn't changed our lives all that much. We never did anything social before, and we don't do anything social now.
It's killing me.
Whereas Crystal's like the exact opposite. That she feels most alive when she's with other people and socializing, and COVID's like her worst nightmare.
Apparently, Styles is 1 year younger than me. Now I know what the 83 in his name means. Or her name. Their name.
Born in 83.
Yep.
Villaina says that I should have been sent bungee jumping for my birthday. Well, you know, I actually have a fear of heights. So that would be...
Won't even ride the Ferris wheel. Like, that's how terrified.
I mean, I could force myself to do it. Don't get me wrong, but it just would be really, it's just really unpleasant. Even like, you know, looking out the window of a tall building. If I look out from, you know, several feet away from the window, no problem. But if I like get right up next to it and look downward, it's like, I don't feel so good. Get queasy.
T and I have to ride the Ferris wheel by ourselves during the state fair. He won't get on it.
It's true. I really don't like heights. Sorry.
Chicken.
And you know, I took a psychology class as a freshman in college, and they said that the best way to get over your fear is to expose yourself to it. I'm like, no thanks. The teacher said the same thing though, as far as the no thanks goes. She's like, I have a fear of spiders, so I could probably get over that by exposing myself to spiders a lot, but yeah, I'd rather not.
Yeah. I'm afraid of thunderstorms. I have been exposed to plenty of them. I am still afraid of thunderstorms. Does not work.
Yeah, it doesn't work for you in this situation. But for a lot of people, you know, if you're forced to be exposed to it, then you realize that your fears are rational and then you get over it. But you are still definitely afraid of thunderstorms. More afraid than ever, if anything.
Shut up. I have a weighted blankie. I'm fine. Until lightning strikes the tree across the street. That was crazy.
Yeah. Of course, people know about that because I posted the picture, but I'm in the basement and the lightning hitting the tree across the street, you know, I didn't even know it was a thunderstorm, but that was loud even in the basement. I couldn't hear the thunderstorm at all, but when the lightning hit the tree, I was like, whoa, what the heck just happened? So I can't imagine how high Crystal jumped when that happened.
Yeah. High enough. Oh, large insects. Why? What's wrong with large insects? I've always wanted, and I know this is going to make me sound really weird, than you already think I am through this whole stream. I've always wanted, as a pet, some Madagascar hissing cockroaches. I think they're cool. They're really pretty, one. And I just think they're kind of cute. And it's so cool the way they hiss, and you just hold them in your little hand. And one of my favorite ocean creatures is an isopod. And I think that the cockroaches, the hissing cockroaches, look like an isopod. So yeah, anyway. I made bombs in the Navy, but insects are my kryptonite. That's hilarious. Ian called you a basement dweller.
It's true.
Ian, would you like to know why I knocked him to the basement? Because he was a slob, and I got tired of seeing his mess.
Yeah, you know, when a Muslim troll says, you probably just live in your parents' basement. Well, that's sort of half true. I do spend a lot of time in a basement.
But it's his own basement.
Yeah, it's not my parents' basement, though, and nor do I live down there or sleep down there or anything. But and it's finished. You know, it's below ground, but the half I'm in is finished. So it's just like any other room. Jerry had to say hi before we log off.
Hi, Chair Bear.
You may have heard him trilling.
Yeah, we have 6 cats because I am the crazy cat lady. I'm not allowed to go to pet stores or the Humane Society unsupervised because I bring home animals. Oops. It's a thing.
Yeah, we had 5 cats for a very long time. And I said a number of times we can get another cat when the oldest one dies, but she's very finicky. I don't know how she'd react to another cat. I don't want to get another cat. Well, what was it? Maybe 6 months ago now, or maybe a little less.
Like 2.
No,
like
no,
maybe
we've had
a month.
no, we've had Penny longer than 2.
No.
I'll say 3 months. Split the difference. Anyway, a friend from church, her daughter was moving in with her boyfriend, and it was
They're
the
not
boyfriend's,
moving in together.
or I mean, you know, that's right. Okay, fine. Sorry. I thought she was moving in, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, he was spending all his time with her, and he didn't have any time to take care of the cat anymore. And she's allergic, right? I believe.
Yep.
So she's allergic to the cat, and he was feeling guilty about not being able to spend time with the cat. So they're like, I know what to do. Let's talk to Crystal. She loves cats. She has 1 million of them. She wouldn't mind taking another one. So Crystal eventually convinced me to let the cat in. You know, the cat I was concerned about is perfectly fine with her. No objections at all. 4 of the 5 cats really don't mind her at all. The other one occasionally bothers her, but the new cat doesn't really like 3 of the existing cats, and is quite. They'll just like walk by, right? They don't care what she's doing, and she'll start hissing at them and growling at them. Well, then they'll turn and look at her, and so she like brings it on herself. She makes them want to attack her because she's hissing and growling at them. Not the smartest cat.
Styles says I want a water bear as a pet. Hey, Styles, look what I've got. I got a water bear.
That's great.
You bought this for me for my birthday, remember?
No, I mean, it's great that someone brought up a water bear, because I know how much you like them.
They're my favorite microscopic thing. I love tardigrades. And Ian says he's afraid to swim in water in case an amoeba eats his brain. Aw, Naegleria fowleri isn't that bad. It's only 100% fatal. Come on.
It is extremely rare, though. That, Ian wasn't here earlier unless he was only listening and not in the chat. When we talked about the medical drama shows, that the fiction or the non-fictional ones, where they're like, this person has these symptoms and the doctors don't know what to do, so they do this test, and that's one that comes up on there periodically, is the brain-eating amoeba. And it's like, oh, they discovered that she was swimming in contaminated water. Yep, now they know what's wrong with that person.
Vibrio comes up a lot on those shows too. Yep. People, just don't go swimming in dirty water. Ugh.
Yeah, like I said, it's rare and it's really hard to get. You have to not only be in dirty infected water, which normally people would swim in a pool or something, but you also have to get it up your nose, right? That's the only way to get it. You can't, if you like swallow the water or something, you can't get it.
Naegleria, yeah, you have to get it up your nose. That's why they tell you when you use a neti pot, you have to use distilled water, because some people have gotten it from using tap water in their neti pots. People that live in the South. It doesn't live up here in our climes. It's too cold for it. Yeah, the people that live in the South have used tap water in their neti pots, and yes, they have gotten Naegleria fowleri. Yeah. And if you look at a microscopic picture of Naegleria, it has like a face. It's kind of funny looking. And my nerd is showing again.
Villainous asked a very important question, though. He said, what about Muhammad's water? Because Muhammad declared that nothing can make water contaminated. So it's worse than it sounds. I mean, that statement's dumb enough in itself, but the context of the hadith, which, it's probably not a real story about something that actually happened, but the context is that Muhammad was using water that from a well that people were throwing their menstruation rags into, throwing their excrement into. And they're like, why are you using that dirty, disgusting water? And he's like, what do you mean? Nothing can make water unclean.
Ew. Good night, Layla. Layla says goodbye from the Midwest. Goodbye, fellow Midwesterner.
Yes, and absolutely, we'll be celebrating many birthdays if, that's a thing in heaven. We'll be celebrating together for all eternity. Excellent thought there. And then Styles appreciated your just 100% fatal comment. Thought that was hilarious.
Just like rabies and lots of things.
No, rabies is only 99.99% fatal.
Okay, only because they put that one girl to a coma and it's never worked on anybody else since. Yeah, I have a thing for these stuffed giant microbes, so I have a couple of them.
Yeah,
which nerves? Huh?
Yeah, remind me, which other ones do you have?
I have a nerve cell. I have the water bear. I have, pretty sure I have the kissing disease, which is mono.
Which was the one that Jeremiah and Deanna gave you?
The nerve cell.
It's funny because they asked what she wanted for her birthday, a family friend, and she said, I'd like one of the stuffed microbes. And then they looked it up, and Deanna's like, "Can you ask again? Does she really want this stuffed bacteria, or whatever?" And like, yeah, she really does. And they asked me. I'm like, yeah, that's really what she wants. You're on the right web page. Like, well, I think we'll just get a nerve cell. I don't want to get a bacteria. That's too weird.
Pretty sure I have the Ebola one. They have a COVID one. I think he's cute. I want the COVID one. But yeah, I like them. Again, I studied microbiology and biochemistry, so that's why I like them. They're really cool. And they have jumbo ones that are like really, really cool. And they are actually to scale. This is 1 million times actual size. So
Yeah,
cool.
you could in theory fit 1 million actual water bears in the space of that one stuffed water bear.
Yeah. You about ready to sign off, honey bunches?
Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up. I think we've gone
Does
long enough.
anybody have any other questions?
So thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm sure that even on replay, very few people will see me signing off because no one wants to through 3 hours plus, but I really appreciate everyone who joined in, whether it was just for, a few minutes to pop in and say happy birthday, or whether you stayed a while. And I had a good time hanging out with you all. We'll definitely do this again sometime. This is the second time we've done this. Had a lot of good participation today, a lot of fun. Maybe we won't go quite 3 hours next time. Maybe we'll just keep it more reasonable at 1 hour to 2 hours, but definitely a lot of fun. I had a really great birthday. Thank you all for joining me. Stay tuned for a couple more live streams upcoming this week. See the community post I made a couple days ago for details on those. The one with Eric Hernandez may be postponed. He just emailed me like 15 minutes before we went on saying he may need to reschedule. So that might be postponed, but I'll definitely do it at some point, even if it's not Wednesday. So thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, whether it's just beginning or coming to an end. And we'll end with a comment from Styles. I wish I was virtually indestructible like the water bear.
Me too, Styles. Me too. I bet they don't get CRPS.
I think that we all have that to look forward to, though. Our bodies may be destructible, but when we're in line with God, our eternal souls are not, and we will one day get to spend all of eternity in an indestructible state in unison with God. Thank you all, and God bless.